Welcome to the Indie Scientology podcast. I'm your host Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy, and it's nice to be here listening to Strauss with you. This is a podcast that has everything to do with Scientology, just that interesting religion you might have heard about. If you like this podcast episode, make sure you subscribe to it as per usual. If you don't know what Scientology is, then I recommend listening to the first few episodes of this podcast. They basically just say what Scientology is because it's quite a complex subject and we're diving in the deep end with it. We're diving into it with this episode like we do every episode except those first few ones. So listen to those first few ones if you had no idea what Scientology is. Otherwise you get confused. How did you like the last podcast with Scott Gordon? It wasn't bad, it was good. I think my favourite one was still the first part one with Scott Gordon. Anyway, that was good. He talks a lot. Ooh, it's now time to go down to that rabbit hole. Go down into it, into the world of Scientology where up is down is up, right is left, left is right. What you thought wasn't possible is possible. Welcome to the Indie Scientology podcast. Today's show is with Raynor. He is a young man who got involved with Scientology for only like 5 weeks or something and then left. And he likes Christianity, and so it's kind of interesting to hear his perspective of what it was like getting involved with the Melbourne church, and why he decided to leave after doing it for a month, because he did a hardcore month of Scientology and then left. It just gives a whole nother perspective, and I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? It's not as fascinating as talking to Scott Gordon, or Sylvia Casada. Or, you know, like these big indies and stuff. I mean, there's more data and they're more interesting. But this is interesting from the point of view of Div 6 and how to talk to young people and how to sell Scientology to people, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of, it's talent being involved in Div 6 and selling Scientology and promoting it and stuff. And I think listening to Jai talk and explain why he left and that sort of stuff, it gives us an idea of things not to do. Like, of course, what they did is the church regged him a lot and just pissed him off and made him want to leave. So yeah, it's a whole, you know, Scientology is such a big thing that when you talk to Science, you literally use different words and you approach life in a different way. Then when you talk to a Div 6 person, it's like you have to like grant them more beingness and you have to like not use hard words, and it's just different, you know. It's interesting. Anyway, something that's on my mind is YouTube, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but YouTube, for a while now, it's demonetizing controversial videos. And when I say controversial videos, I'm not saying a video by like the Ku Klux Klan or a video by me saying the government's like the worst thing ever and it's corrupt and all this sort of stuff. I mean, they're demonetizing things that are just like people talking about politics just in general and just anything that might slightly be odd or unusual. They're not allowing ads to be on those videos, right? So what it means is that people on YouTube can't make as much money, right? And you think, I mean, what made the internet great and what made YouTube so great, like many things in life, is because they're free. Like, as in, they have no rules and regulations, that sort of stuff. So they become this cool new thing, and they explode up, and it's kind of like the Church of Scientology. It explodes up, and it's popular, and it's real cool. And then, of course, after that, all these rules come in because there's one or two stuff-ups, and they go, oh, we've got to pass a rule to stop these stuff-ups. And then it just stuffs up the whole organization, and it shrinkles back down into being shit. And this is what they're trying to do now to YouTube. They're literally trying to shrink it back down and make it into this strict thing where you can only make videos on cupcakes or skateboarding, right? But you can't talk about politics and actually interesting and exciting things. Like, even people who are apparently, if a transgender is making a video and it just shows them putting on makeup, they're not allowed to make money off that. Like, it's that outrageous. Like, you have to understand this. It's really good that they demonetize videos. They've done this, YouTube, because it just proves all my theories correct about the New World Order and how corrupt the world is. Because I know it's happening. I know it's true, especially when I saw what's happening with YouTube. Because the people who run this world absolutely hate YouTube, right? When it started, they just thought it would be funny cat videos. But then when they realized all these people were putting out interesting information, like stuff about Scientology, stuff about UFOs, stuff about aliens, stuff about governments and corruption and Alex Jones and all this sorts of stuff, it suddenly was like, hold on, this is a whole platform that is just like, we can't control, right? Because they can control television, they control the TV networks and all that sort of stuff, and you can't talk about these controversial things on TV. Like, literally, you cannot, okay? If they have a guest on that's saying something controversial about Hillary Clinton, like doing something dodgy with her campaign, they'll cut the phone link off and they'll go, oh, sorry, the connection's stuffed up. We have to turn away now. And like, literally, I'm not kidding. The world is so corrupt, right? And these people are in control of the major media, and now this whole internet thing's risen up with YouTube and that, and they're not in control of that. Right? Until now. Now, they've said, no, we're clamping down on this shit because too many people are getting woken up to how the world actually works. And basically the cows, the slaves are becoming rebellious and starting to wake up and starting to not take their vaccines because they're actually hearing stories about kids getting harmed from vaccines. They're questioning it. You know what I mean? You can't go on mainstream TV and talk about how vaccines harm your kid. Right? Like, it's so disgusting, this world. So, I mean, I don't mean to be negative, it's so hardcore. There is a reason there's problems in this world. It's because there's dudes who are running it who are bad, and they get in control of the TV networks, they get in control of the newspapers, they get in control of the education system, and they make sure we're all kept as dumb as dog shit. Okay? I'm sorry to be rude, like, with the whole swearing, this sort of stuff, but it's just, people need to just wake up. It's epic what's going on in this world. If you don't wake up, you just become a victim to it. So now with YouTube, they're demonetizing all this sort of stuff. So all my videos on YouTube, right, because of course my videos are all dealing in unusual things, because I don't want to do videos about skateboarding, okay, or making cupcakes. All right, that just doesn't interest me. What interests me is actually finding out the truth about the world and interesting information. So of course, a ton of my videos are all classified as shocking content, right? It's just funny. Classified as shocking content, and I can't make any money off them. Right? Classic. They're trying to stop the independent media. They hate Alex Jones. They absolutely hate him. You know what I mean? And it's just like, hey, if there was nothing to all this alternative information, then why do they have to actually fight it and shut it down? If it's just a load of crap, if it's just lies, if it's just silly exaggerations, then they wouldn't have to attack it, but they're actually having to attack it, right? But get this, here's where it's hypocritical. So no one can do any sort of political videos, right? And they're not allowed to make money off any political videos or whatever. They're all demonetized, right? But guess what? Guess who can make money off political videos? Mainstream media can. So if, like, you've got like Channel 7 nightly news or whatever, and they've got like a YouTube thing and they put up a video about politics, that's allowed. Like, that is so unfair, and this is why you know who owns these corporations and these websites and stuff, and they're making it so that, you know, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. So it's a huge attack on independent media, Um, anyway, it's just wild. So that's the world we live in, and I'm not some wacky conspiracy theorist. It's happening. They literally are clamping down and closing up YouTube and stopping the freedom on it and stopping people from making money because they don't want to encourage people to continue. Because if people make a lot of money, more people want to make videos, right? They want to stop people like Alex Jones and stuff putting these videos out and making money on them. And they use the shitty excuse, right? Sorry, I should be going on with the podcast, but they use the shitty excuse that advertisers don't want their videos to be associated with some controversial government video about Alex Jones or something like that. And it's like, okay, fair enough. Then when they choose to put their ads on YouTube, then select not to have your ad on Alex Jones's videos, or select not to have your ad. Like, YouTube can come up with an option, right, that allows people to choose who they want to put their ads on. So let's say you're Target and you want to put a shoes ad, right? You can choose not to put that shoes ad on right-wing videos. You can do that. Just the same as when you go to mainstream TV, you can choose, right? But of course, YouTube don't offer that option because YouTube want to have the excuse to shut down and demonetize all these videos, right? So YouTube want to say, oh, we have to demonetize all these videos because, like, the corporations don't want to be associated with these bad YouTube channels, and that's just their little stupid convenient excuse when it's not really the truth. You know what I mean? It's just they're just using it as an excuse because they can get around that. They can have Target advertise on all the cupcake and skateboarding videos that they want. They can set it up like that, but they're intentionally not doing that because they want to have an excuse. This is why the world's so fake, and whenever you hear anything, you always question, is that really the truth, or is that some bullshit spin that some politician's saying, or some bullshit excuse or whatever? Anyway, they're literally trying to shut down the website. It's like communist China where they're trying to just like stop people from using Facebook and stop people from doing these things. And guess what? Speaking of that, guess what Facebook is now doing as well that I've noticed? They're doing a similar thing in that they're starting to censor videos as well. And you can't like promote like certain videos and stuff because they don't want... Anyway, it's just it's how they rule the world, basically. And that's how, the human race is in the condition that they are, because it's crazy what's going on. These evil people are in control, and you get the majority of people, especially, I mean, I don't mean to pick on Christians, I'm just thinking about it because I was interviewing Jai, who's a Christian. Christians who just like to have a nice world and be positive and sing nice songs and stuff. Like, they can't confront how messed up the world really is because it's actually upsetting. It's just like, it's wild. It seems like Alex Jones supporters and people who like Scientology are actually hardcore enough to just say, I'm going to actually confront the truth and really see what's going on in the world. And you're like, whoa, it's wild. But a lot of other people, it just upsets them so much when they start finding out the truth, like when they start hearing that doctors en masse are injecting kids with vaccines that are like brain damaging them. They just go, whoa, that's too far for me. I don't want to confront the fact that life is like on Earth here is literally hell. I don't want to confront that. It's too much. So it upsets them too much. So they just ignore it and go, I'm going to watch sport and I'm going to sing nice songs. And I'm going to drink beer and just have fun and ignore it and stuff. And it's like they can do that, but it's just like, I understand now why people don't want to wake up to the truth because it's just so upsetting. It's just too hardcore. And once you wake up to it, you can't forget the information you found out about what's really going on. Anyway, so I mean, this whole demonetization of videos on YouTube, it's not going to change anything I do because everything I was doing was pretty much volunteer anyway. Like, I wasn't making much money because I'm not getting huge views on YouTube anyway. This is more for like a unique niche market of people who are into Scientology. But yeah, I mean, it did sort of crush my sort of dreams of maybe making some good dough on some videos if they get long-term views or something. Anyway, here's an interesting Facebook post. It's by Homer Wilson Smith. It was posted in one of the Scientology Facebook groups in Facebook. And it's an interesting post. It's not like I necessarily agree with it, but it's interesting. So listen to this. It says, "There is more to physics than Newton ever said, knew, or dreamed. There is more to Scientology than Hubbard ever said, knew, or dreamed." Oh, interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because Scientology, Hubbard started like a subject, and there's like a lot to it, and it's just you can contribute to it. I guess you can make high levels of OT. I know it might seem sort of squirreling, but it's like maybe when you connect with Source, maybe it's not even necessarily LRH, but you can work out what the high level OT levels are, or something, or I don't know. But yeah, there's more to Scientology than Hubbard ever said, knew, or dreamed. It's interesting. There's a lot to it. Okay, here's an independent Scientology win of the week, and it says original OT6. The original OT6 was a wonderful way to finish up a cycle I started back in 1982 before the new OT levels of OT I did. Sorry, before the new. I'll start that again. The original OT6 was a wonderful way to finish up a cycle I started back in 1982 before the new NOTS levels of OT I did. I thought that I would never be able to finish them when they were removed by David Miscavige from the bridge. Is this a form of LRH's bulletin on tech degrades? I think it might qualify for it since Miscavige never put those processes anywhere on the bridge after he removed them. Thank God they're available in the indie field for everyone who wishes to do them. As a new OT8 completion, these levels were just as valuable as the gains in spiritual awareness I got up to new OT8. In fact, in regards to what the level is about, which is the familiarization with the mesh universe and one's exteriorization as a Thetan, these drills really put me in a new, or should I say, once again rehabbed into a more comfortable, natural spiritual state of being exterior. I haven't the slightest clue why they were ever removed. I would suggest to anyone going up the bridge to insert this and all the original OT levels into your program at proper time. Thanks to my great CS Randy Smith for assisting me on this journey, and to LRH for putting it there. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, exactly. So it's... Hold on. Early tonight I was doing a YouTube video about my Avatar review, and I was saying how I just tried some of the early courses on Avatar, but I'm not going to do the high level courses because I'm a Scio, and I reckon Scientology's got better tech and all that sort of stuff, and it's just like reading that success story is like, yeah, like you can, especially in an independent field, you can do these original OT levels and get these exteriorization wins and stuff, and it's awesome. Okay, so if you do want to try independent Scientology, Ronzorg is a good group. It's popular in Europe. I recommend trying. I like Captain Bill. It seems like their stuff's pretty good. I haven't been there yet, but it seems pretty good. And there's a group called the Association of Professional Independent Auditors. And just like search APIS Scientology, or what I just said before. And you can join that group and you can get copies of the books and stuff, and you can find an auditor near you, and that. Yeah, I was just sort of Google independent Scientology and send emails out around town, and you get in contact with someone. Maybe join one of the Scientology Facebook groups, and you can get into it. I highly recommend it. So it's now time for a joke. Why did the Scientologist cut a hole in the carpet? To see a floor show. So not funny. Just not funny. Alright. That's all I have to say about that. It's now time for my guest interview with Jay Raynor, the 17-year-old who joined staff and at the local Melbourne church and did Scientology hardcore for about a month, and then decided he didn't like it and left. But he's still got some wins from it and stuff, and I chat with him, and it's a bit more of a casual discussion. It's kind of interesting, like I said, seeing what it's like from a person new to Scientology, like their point of view and how they view how Scientology functions and stuff. And I know he's talking about the Church of Scientology, but I think you can learn stuff from it. It's kind of interesting. So, bust out a cup of tea or beverage of your choice, and let's listen to this interview with Jay Raynor.
talking.
Yeah.
Let's do that. We'll do that, all right?
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good.
All right. Welcome to the Indie Scientology podcast, this special filmed version. It's with a young man called Jai.
Hello.
Yes, say hi to the camera, Jai.
Hello.
Say hi to the people in YouTube land.
Good to be here. Hello, YouTube land.
Yes, and in podcast land.
Hello,
Yes.
podcast land.
Jai is new to Scientology. He worked on staff for a month or something.
Around a month and a half, yeah. 5 weeks.
Yeah, in the Melbourne org. And I'm from Melbourne, and I used to work at the Melbourne org, so it's kind of cool to get to chat to someone and see how the ideal org is going and that sort of stuff. I'm an independent Scientologist, but I think what's good to chat with Jai about is to get an idea from people who are used to Scientology. By listening to Jai, who's new to it, we can get an idea of how to talk to people who are new to Scientology. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, when I first got into Scientology, I remember people would use the word tech, and they were just like, what the hell, tech? Like, it just was such a weird thing to hear. And I thought, these people shouldn't tell new people the word tech because it's just weird, like it just gives them an MU, And there was another thing where I saw like this pamphlet, and it was made by Melbourne org, and it showed people like trying out auditing, and in the pamphlet it was like, hi, I'm holding the cans, and it was really corny. It was like, I'm holding the cans, I'm going to the examiner.
That's pretty much Scientology. For you, it's the corniest.
Yeah,
the corniest thing.
And so when I was new to Scientology, I looked at this pamphlet and I was like, Jesus, the people who made this pamphlet have clearly been Scientologists for years, and they have no idea that someone on the street will look at this pamphlet and think this is the corniest thing, and it actually seemed a bit creepy. And it's like, this is not good. To give out to people who exactly.
No. It seems so fake.
Yeah, so to be good with it when it comes to Div 6 and to talking to people who are new to Scientology or introducing them to it, you have to remember you're not dealing with someone who's a Scientologist, and you have to get into their mindset. And so you don't say words like tech, and you don't show some weird thing with you and me I'm at the examiner, and it looks like you're really corny, and people are just what the hell? I don't know. It's kind of tricky,
Well, I think you just got to explain what tech means. I'm talking about Scientology to some of my friends. I mean, I'm an ex-Scientologist. I'm not practicing Scientology anymore. They Melbourne org kind of turned me off of it a bit. I'm a practicing Christian now.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, right. But what it is, I think if you explain, I'm explaining Scientology to a lot of my friends, and if you just explain what tech means, tech is, you explain that it's different to the theory or faith, where it's people when they think about religion, they're so used to going to church and praying, and it being a bit of a subjective thing, you know what I mean? And if you explain that technology, and when the Scientology means think it's actual practices, just like a psychologist would have, or just like a normal practitioner would have, people kind of understand that a bit more. Okay, tech, auditing, or of course, it's all physical things that get you from point A to point B, rather than being a subjective thing. Once you kind of explain that, then I found that my friends knew what I meant by tech and actually started using the word themselves. And I was like, oh, okay, you're picking up on the word pretty well there.
Yeah. Whereas if you just drop the word tech, we've got the Scientology tech, people are just like, whoa, what the hell? They just got an MU on tech. They don't understand. But also what the church does as well is the PR person would say, well, Scientology is the 8 dynamics, or they give some really crappy robotic answer to someone to explain, and the person on the street's just or watching TV or whatever, is just
what the hell?
What the hell is that? It's no answer.
Am I able to swear?
Yeah.
Cool. I just want to make sure no one's going to get offended. Yeah.
That's all right. Try not to though. It makes it easier. But so it's just interesting because it's they need to, Scientologists, whether they're church members or they're independents, they just need to realize when they're dealing with Div 6 people, there's a whole way of talking to them and stuff, and don't give these crappy answers where Scientology allows you to know knowingness or something, and you're just what the fuck? The
corniest crap you've ever heard.
Exactly. I'll tell you what it is. It's the study of knowledge and information and science. You know what I mean? It's the seeking of the truth.
Well, the way I break it down,
it's finding out the truth about life. But they don't say that. They go, they give that whatever it is they say. It's knowing how to know.
Knowing how to
See,
know.
knowing how to know.
Knowing your own Satan or something like
Yeah.
that. They confuse people.
Yeah, but knowing how to know, it's like I can understand that, right? After I've studied Scientology for years, I can understand how knowing how to know means. I'll tell you what knowing how to know means. It's teaching yourself how to do things as opposed to someone teaching you how to do it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that's what Scientology does. It improves you and puts you into a condition where you no longer have to be taught how to sing. You no longer have to be taught how to do that job. You can just go in there and learn it yourself. That's knowing how to know. It's like you learn how to know things. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
But I don't think some of the PR people, they're usually just a pretty face or whatever, and they usually just do what they're told. I don't even think they really even understand what knowing how to know means.
No, I think I think a lot of the time, like you walk in there, and they have the really good persona. You walk, when I walked into Scientology, I done all my research into it, so I was like, oh. I'm walking in expecting to be brainwashed. I'm like, you guys aren't going to brainwash me. You guys aren't going to touch me. I know all this stuff, But the first thing you do when you walk in there is you're blown away because.
Is it really friendly?
When you walk into an org, it's blingy as all hell.
Oh, yeah.
They love their bling. It looks like it's $20 million.
Yeah, no, that's also with the filming and stuff, their videos and stuff, they're always like, they're really good with
making
things look nice.
They're making things look nice. You know what I mean? Just like, it's like too much and they take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
But what it is like, so you're a bit blown away. You kind of feel like you're in a bit of an alien planet. But that's how I felt. You're like, whoa, what did I just walk into?
Yeah. Especially with these ideologues.
With these ideologues, they're so
different.
flashy.
I walked into it in 2010 before Melbourne went ideal. But that was more like a normal looking sort of place.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it would be like to walk into, like, imagine it must be like what you're saying, where you're like, whoa, what the hell is this?
Where the hell am I? Because you got all these TV, you got these really flashy books, you got these TVs, you got gold, things that look like gold. They're not gold, but they look like, gold all over the place. Weird. So you kind of feel like, so your mind's in a bit of disarray, and then, you're like, where am I? What am I doing? This is kind of cool, but kind of a bit flippy, And then you got this real smiling face. They're so friendly because they treat you like you're the Messiah. That's kind of like like the prodigal son that's returned.
Yeah, do you know what they do right as well? That they treat you. This is something as well. I think people in DivSig shouldn't do, in that they shouldn't like suck up to the people who are walking in.
Yeah, I mean they
you know what
you're
I mean?
like the biggest thing that's happened since sliced bread.
Yeah, exactly.
When you walk in there, because they get such little foot traffic.
I know that's
they love bomb the hell out of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that before they even do a love bomb, right? Because they'll do a love bomb when they want to reg you on something.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying, like you said, just in general, if you're just walking in, they're still like friendly as, and then they up it up. They up at the ante.
They up the ante even more.
Bomb.
Like, no, because they're really friendly people. And what I noticed when I went in there, but it was almost like they're really, like, I could pick up, like, okay, these are good people. There's like, they're not like, because I was expecting to go in there and, like, I was expecting to be brainwashed because, you go, you do a bit of research into Scientology. It's not very pretty.
Yeah, hold on, that's another thing as well. When you have to understand, because of the bad PR there is out there and stuff, when there's new people who are walking in, you have to understand what they see with their eyes is, in Scientology, where it's independent or the church. They're seeing with their eyes, this could be a creepy cult. So, like, they're looking everywhere going, where's evidence for a creepy cult? And this is what I was doing. I was walking in and I was going, where's evidence for a creepy cult? And the fact that it was quiet made me think, oh, this is creepy because it was quiet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is most people, like, when I talk to most people that don't know anything about Scientology, like, they don't know about the tech, they don't know about all this stuff. The three things they think of is, they have something to do with aliens because of that South Park episode.
Yeah.
Oh, this
South Park episode.
Yeah, it's such a good South Park episode. But they think, oh, fucking these guys worship aliens and we have some weird shit about aliens,
Yeah.
And then the brainwashing, because you hear about all that, Tom Cruise and John Travolta, and then some brainwashing. People have a very kind of misconceived idea. They think Tom Cruise, they think John Travolta, and they think like brainwashing and control and mind manipulation, and then they think, oh, cult, and so you're walking in there, and then money, like, because you hear about these extravagant course things, like $200,000 for an OT level. I don't even know. I don't know the actual prices, but ridiculous amounts of money. So you're walking in there, you have like this 4 or 5 points that the average person thinks about Scientology. So I walked in there, of course, doing my research. I had those were quite strong, so I'm thinking, you guys aren't going to touch me. I'm aware of your games. You can't do it. But you go in there, and the first thing I noticed, because I was also trying to give it a fair go, was that these people are good people. These people are genuinely nice people that are trying to do what's best. They're not trying to. trying to go at you and like, oh, we're going to brainwash the hell out of you, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of, but they kind of like, they're nice people, but they kind of have this like bit of fakeness over it, and you kind of detect it because you're a good person, but there's just something a little bit off.
Well, I imagine that if when you're new to it and you're walking in, because we were talking about this when I was driving in the car, how the first sort of few months you're involved, that's when the whole like obviously
you're in the honeymoon period,
and you get more of the friendly fakeness. Like, you know what I mean? Where the over niceness and stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit too much. Like, because people are, because I feel like they really think that you're dumb. Like, when you walk in there, like, you're a wog, you know, you're raw meat. They think people are so naive. They think people just don't know anything. Like, you know, like, because Scientologists, they're all convinced that they have the one and true tech, you know, then the whole world's stuffed. The outside world stuff. I mean, they talk about the outside world like it's just it's like a hellhole, you know, like... Yeah. The thing is, they think that people have no intelligence. Yeah. You know, they think you can't tell that they're being fake, you know?
Yeah, and that's true, because I know a lot what's going on in the world, like with UFOs and corrupt corporations and governments and stuff, and Scientology and stuff. And so, it's like, I agree, yes, the average person who walks in off the street, they don't know what's going on, right? But I think what's wrong with the way the church do it, as in, I think they treat people...
Like they have no emotional intelligence.
They think that people are even dumber than that, and it's just like, no, like, maybe what LH was trying to say is, like, people just don't know what's really going on in the world, but they take it to the next level, because so they treat them like they're dumb, sort of, when they're new.
Well, that's it, because people might not have the data. Like, people might not have the data in their, in their head about everything that's going on the planet. The thing is, people have emotional intelligence. Like, people can pick up on things. People can tell, like, if you're acting fake, you know, people can tell it, you know, and the thing is...
they don't think the person can tell it.
People can tell the games that they're playing, but, like, if you're running... Because I feel like the thing that gets me, you know, especially when you come in, because they're all running a cycle on you. They all have this cycle, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, everything kind of feels a bit contrived, and when you walk in there, because, I mean, when you dig a bit deeper and you become stuff, you learn that all these things are just cycles. You know, they're broken down. So it kind of feels like it's a bit fake. And then I picked up on it right away, but I didn't quite know what it was. And I was like, they're really good people, and they're genuinely trying to help. Like, I picked that up as well. But I also picked up, like, just something's not quite right. You know,
was the fakeness? Do you think the fakeness was just the over friendliness?
I think it was the over friendliness. I think it was like the smile was just a little too wide. Yeah, you know, and they were just a little too pushy.
Yeah, well,
you know?
I remember when what thing were you on? What org? Day or Foundation?
Oh, Foundation.
Foundation. I remember there was a time when Liz Grogan, she's still the
Liz Grogan's the ED. Yeah.
I remember she told the staff to. By the way, I don't have anything against Melbourne staff or even.
No, they're really good people.
Even the Church of Scientology and that. Like, I've just progressed to an organisation, an independent Scientology organisation that I think's better, and that I think upholds standard tech more, and I don't trust RTC, basically. So, I mean, I have nothing against... Anyway, but with Liz Grogan I remember there was a time when she was telling the staff, she literally told the staff, you know, just smile to the public, like, even if you don't feel like smiling, just smile but then you get the staff go out, and they put on these fake salesman smiles, like, hi Sarah, and it's just fake. And it's just like,
fake, and
as an ED, I wouldn't do it. Exactly, they can tell it. So as an ED, if I was an ED, there's no way I'd tell the staff to just be fake like that, because
people
can see.
You gotta be real, and that's the thing. Like, and that's the thing that got me with, like, you know, you can tell it. You know, and I think it became too much. You kind of feel like you're being, because people have gotten the pushy door salesmen all the time. People aren't dumb. People are used to salesmen. Yeah. We're getting sold things every day of our lives. And I think Scientology thinks they're above and beyond all that. Oh, they can put on the salesman act like no one else can. It's like, no, they can't. You know, like, I mean, you got multi-billion-dollar level corporations that have professional people that are advertising. People know advertisements, you know. So when you have it, when people are, like, I think.
Hold on, can I say something quickly to remember as well? They have this thing as well where if the person doesn't like it, then they say that person's got a control button or something, and it's just like. They make out as it's the person's reactive mind. It doesn't like being controlled, and it's just like, no, you're being unreasonable. Like, you're trying to sign them up for too much donations or too much courses and stuff. And of course, a person's going to get pissed off. Like, yes, there is the occasional person who comes in and it's clearly a stubborn shit, and you can't get them to do anything because they've just got a control button. But the majority aren't even like that.
Well, it's kind of like, it's a can-do, no-wrong attitude. Like, they believe that they're perfect, and if you have any problem with the church, it's not the church's fault, it's your fault. You know, and that's what I
Yeah, exactly. Where it's just like, no, maybe it's your fake salesman thing where you're trying to control people.
Yeah, maybe you push them to, because people, they're so, like, they're like, they're so convinced that they're kind of what they're doing is perfect, to where they can't actually look at themselves and be like, okay, maybe we pushed a little too far there. Maybe we did this. I mean, yeah, I get. I mean, to be fair,
they're worried it's CI, probably counter intention. They're probably worried it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but no, like, to be fair, sometimes they'll be like, okay, we need a review. You know, maybe we didn't quite apply this properly and all that. I'm not going to be completely unfair and say, oh, yeah, they all think they're perfect, because no, they don't. But I think it's where they really try to project onto the person, oh yeah, this person has some issue, this person has this issue, rather than maybe he just doesn't want to have the product, maybe he just doesn't want to do it quite yet. You know, and when you lose, because I think
it's also maybe like. Yeah, exactly. It's like maybe he can't afford it just at this moment, but he will next month. But if you keep on regging him, you're just going to piss him off and just leave.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
you know what I mean?
The thing is, they tried to reg me for the Purif, and we're going a bit off timeline here, but this is one of the last things. They tried to reg me for the Purif, and I said, look, I'm interested in the Purif. I do want to get the Purif, but I don't have the money right now. And I told them, like, I have the money, but I can't afford it right now because I got to pay my rent, I got to pay my bills. I'm not going to do it. They didn't respect that at all.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
I told them, I'm like, guys, I get it. I want to do the Purif. Like, I completely understand. They didn't stop there. They're like, no, you're going to put a deposit down now. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't have the money right now. When I get a job, I will do it. That wasn't good enough for them. Like, they would not accept that.
Yeah.
And it upset me because what happens is, like, when you lose empathy for people, like, you see, when you do that, it's going beyond, like, you're no longer caring for the person, you're caring about the number.
Yeah, exactly. The stat.
The stat. Yeah. And the thing is, the real power in, like, sales and stuff like that, like, because I used to work in a bank, I do have experience with customer service and how to relate to people, And what I know with customer service and how, even when I was recruiting people, because I was the COP officer in training, I was also I was in the HCO trying to get people sign up the staff, What I really found is that you gotta, like, where the real power is and where you actually become like where you actually kind of sell a good salesman, or a good thing, comes from actually caring about the person.
Exactly.
You care. You look at the person. You understand who they are, and you genuinely. You don't have your script that you want to have.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't project your reality on them. You look at the person and be like, I actually care about you. What is best for you? Not what's best for my numbers. Not what's best for the org. What's best for you? And when that person actually sees, hey, this person actually cares about me. He doesn't just want to sell me something. He doesn't want to just sign me up for the next course. You open up and you listen. Like, the person actually wants to listen to you because it's like, okay, this person's not just trying to sell me something. This person cares about me.
Yeah, exactly. And if you said something, because it's kind of like, I guess if you're sitting there and you're getting regged hardcore, and you're talking to someone who would actually take your money from you for a course and it could screw up your life. It's just like, hold on. That person doesn't even really care about me.
He doesn't give a shit about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if he's willing to screw up, because I was trying to say, look, I could pay for the Purif right now, but I would be on the street. I would not have enough money.
Yeah, so at that point, the salesperson should go, fair enough, I understand. You know what I mean? Like, hold on, I don't want to actually, I'm not your enemy in life. I'm not going to screw you up. But they ignore that and go, no, you're going to do it and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because they think you're making up excuses. Because in their head, like, I don't actually think they're bad people. I think genuinely they think.
Yeah, they think you're making excuses.
They just think you're making excuses. They think you're putting up barriers. But the thing is, because they become so involved in I think they have a delusion. I think they're deluded people. Like, they're really good people. Like, they genuinely believe what they're doing is best for you. They're not like, it's not from a lack of care. It's for a lack of empathy. They're in their delusion. They're not actually tuned into you.
Yeah,
they're not actually tuned into with a person. They have their script, their tech, their data that they're running in the back of their head, and they're just projecting it onto you.
And they don't actually listen to what you say.
Who you are as a human being. No, the capacity they listen to you is they're listening to you so they can just get their next line out. Oh, okay, this person's in tone, whatever. I need to run this script.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. It's interesting. It's like they've sort of gotten Scientology information, but I don't know, I just feel like they're not presenting it in the right way, because it's kind of like, I can use the tone scale information and stuff if I was regging someone, for example.
Yeah.
And if someone did start getting angry, right, and I'm regging someone, I could think, okay, maybe this guy's anger toned and is dramatizing or something like that. Yeah. But at the same time, I wouldn't rule out the possibility. Yeah, maybe I'm being unreasonable and I should actually listen to the person and not force him, because I've heard, like, someone... Sheen at the Melbourne org, I remember he was regging someone and he basically just pissed him off, and he told me about it, and he said his idea of it was more, hey, it was good I pissed him off because I brought him uptone. You know what I mean? Like, as I got him excited in life, and it's just like, yeah, but at the same time, you're just pissing him off.
You just pissed him off, yeah.
And it's like, I I don't know. It's really interesting. I think it's because a lot of people genuinely like Scientology. Like, I liked it when I was involved with the church, right? I genuinely liked it, right? So it's like, I could get violated because of that. I could get like hardcore reg interviews because I was willing to put up with it because I liked it so much. And I think this is why the church has gone so off the rails, because the members do actually like it, and the tech is that good that they're willing to let themselves just get screwed up by regs and shit. You know?
Well, I mean, I have a different opinion. I think that what's happened, you know, this is my opinion from someone who's had a bit of foots in each doors and kind of seen. I mean, I've only been there for a month, but I've from my time, you know, I've seen quite a bit of people there. I've also seen people in Christianity. I've seen, you know, I've had experiences in quite a number of people, and I've had that kind of comparison available. I think what's happened is that a lot of people in Scientology, especially the staff members, the longtime Scios, they're kind of slowly convinced that there is no other truth out in the world. That this is their only way to spiritual freedom. This is their one path. So they can the church can fuck with you as much as you want, but they're like, well, they have that one true way. I need to get there. So they're dependent. They're completely dependent. They don't realize that, hey, you know, people don't realize that, hey, Christianity is something that actually can help you as well. They think that there's no other way. So whatever they have to put up with, they have to put up with. And they can just, and the church sees that and just abuses that, because they're like, okay, well, we have the, you know, and the thing is that the people that they're more short term, I'm like, well, yeah, I like Scientology, but I have that reference where I'm like, no, well, that's not the only way. I've seen.
Yes, that's what's really interesting. Yeah, from your point of view, because a lot of people come in and they're from the typical sort of Western world where they're not really very spiritual in that. So when I came in, it was like, whoa, I didn't know about other spiritual stuff as well, and how they've got similar information, and people have similar wins and stuff. So I was like, whoa, this is the bee's knees.
This is the bee's knees.
So a lot of people, a lot of people are in it, and they put up with paying expensive prices, and the church pissing them off with lots of phone calls or emails and shit, because they really think that this is the only way to go free. And it was really interesting because when I left the church and I started getting involved in other things, I got so much case gain and so much benefit, and I feel like I just became way more of a Scientologist. Like I could see the truth in L. Ron Hubbard stuff, and I could see how it was good. I could see how the church wasn't really quite right, and I don't know. It's just like, anyway.
Well, because what I think is like there is. Like, because I've grown up, like what makes Scientology so appealing? I see it as kind of like a drug, you know. I think, like, I see it, like, I'll just tell my story about, you know, my experiences going in my first couple of days in Scientology, you know, because well, I grew up, you know, as a Hindu. My dad is a Hare Krishna. He practices what's called this. It's part of the Science of Identity Foundation. It's I'm not sure if you've heard of the Hare Krishnas. Have you heard of the Hare Krishnas?
I've heard of them, but I haven't studied them or anything.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much
but also, speaking of that, because like I was saying, there's all these other things, right?
Yeah.
Who, of course, knows about these other things and studied these other things? The man Hubbard. You know what I mean? How do you think he found out all this sort of stuff? He was doing all these other things and researching all these other things. So if you really want to become an expert like him and really want to become OT, you have to study all these things. You know what I mean?
And not be afraid of the world outside. I mean, you got to live
and you got to try other
world,
things.
You know?
You got to live in the outside world. And you got to try things and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not saying that you should think that if you just do Buddhism, you're going to go spiritually free in OT. No, the same thing. You got to try Buddhism and learn from it. And I do think that, especially outside the church, that you can do the bridge really good and great, right? And maybe that is the first thing on your spiritual journey that you should do. Maybe you should just go boom up to OT8, okay, in the independent field, right? But then start looking into other things and keep on evolving. It's just like, it's not like this,
don't limit yourself.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. Just don't trap yourself, and I think that's kind of
what happens with church members. They trap themselves. They think this is the only way. This is the only thing. There is nothing else, so that they can just take whatever flack that's given their way because they think it's the only thing that there is on the planet. Well, okay. So anyway, back to my story. Yeah. You know, so I've grown up with that. You know, and then I became an atheist for a while because I had a fanatic mother. Like, my mother was just a fanatic. And she ended up
fanatic atheist or religion.
No, religious. So it kind of.
Oh, that's another thing as well. Speaking of sire parents with sire kids, there's something about kids hating whatever their parents want them to do, and the parents try and get them to go into the church or whatever, and the kids are like forced to do these courses. And I remember watching it, and it would just piss the kid off.
It just pissed the kid off, and
it would piss the soup off. It would piss the soup off and it would waste time. And it's just like, parents, whatever you do with your kids, just don't force them into things because they won't like it.
Yeah. Like,
so what happened with you? Like the Hare Krishna stuff?
Well, yeah, like because okay, my mother, you know, she was so extremist. You know, she would force me to do things, and it's just because she'd go out and like instead of being a mother to us and actually kind of spending time with us, she'd go out and meditate for 4 hours on the beach. You know, because she's getting her spiritual thing. So that always kind of left a bit of a bad taste about religion in my mouth. You know, I didn't really like it. You know, for a while, so that's
similar to Scientology in that the parents would like join staff.
Yeah, and they won't be able to being an actual
exactly.
Parent,
yeah, and the kids will be pissed off with their parent because their parents stuck in the org all the time.
Yeah, I think that's just a common thing throughout you fanatics. I think just fanatics in general are dangerous. You know, and they're not beneficial at all. They think they're being beneficial, but they're not because they've gotten their ego and their pride and whatever stuck in there, but they're not actually there. Yeah,
but it's something about getting obsessed with something because I found it in my case, and I think it's something I discovered in like grade 4. And it's life changing when you get rid of it. In that, I used to be like fanatical, like tunnel vision, like boom, right? And it just ends up keying you in and causing problems because you're too like hardcore in one direction.
Well, what I think like fanatics are is because they're lacking. I think we all have our as human beings it's in our not our DNA but our psyche. You know, it's in our makeup. You know, as a thetan or as a soul. To want to have that spiritual fulfillment, to have that connection with God, to have that, whatever you think, I think God, you might think something else, you know. We want to have that. We have that urge, you know. And then when that's not there, that causes, that causes an outness. So when people so desperately want to find it, and then, so what they'll do is when a fanatic will happen is they'll think they found it, they'll get a little taste, and then they'll obsess on it.
Yeah.
Because they want to believe that it's fulfilled, but it's not actually fulfilled. But what they'll do is they'll convince themselves that, no, I've got my 7th dynamic or my 8th dynamic filled, I've got it fulfilled, anyone, la 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 la, they'll become obsessed, and they'll get in they'll delude their own mind into thinking that they've actually fulfilled it, and fulfilled that outness, fulfilled that hole in their psyche. And anyone who tells them no, or anything that convinces them no, they repel and get really nuts about because that might pop their bubble. You see, if you actually fulfill that, there's no need to be a fanatic. There's no need to be threatened by people saying that's something. Because it is what it is. There's substance. No one can take away that substance from you. But if you just have a bubble, and it's actually fake, that's when the fanatics happen because you can't hear anything else because it might pop your bubble and then it might expose your inner emptiness. Yeah. And I think that's where it comes from. Like, because my mother, she just after then she left. You know, like when the divorce happened, she has nothing to do with the religion that she was a fanatic about later on, because it shows that she did not have substance in that actual thing. She did not actually have the fulfillment. See, my dad, he's still in it because he wasn't a fanatic. He just did his thing, and he has that fulfillment there. So, I could tell him I think he's full of shit. I think he's a crazy, or I don't agree with it. It doesn't bother him.
That's what it was like with me. Yeah,
he loves me either way because he knows what it's to be true.
Like when I got good case gain and I really understood Scientology and how it benefits you and all this sort of stuff. It was like no ridge on my behalf. Like if someone would say something bad about Scientology, or you know what I mean? It's just like you just have this confidence in yourself, and you just sit there and you're just like, yeah, I'm a Messiah. Like this is what I genuinely believe. But when you're uncertain, when you're like, I think a little bit when you
have a doubt,
when you have a bit of a doubt, then someone says something and you're like,
it might expose you doubt. Because the thing is, if the tech works and it's just making your life better, why on earth would someone calling bullshit on you?
Yeah, exactly. Because you feel fine. Yeah, exactly.
Why would it bother you? It's no flag on your part.
It's just interesting as well because you got Tom Cruise, who's like a passionate sire, right? But then you see him. I think I've seen some interview where he gets angry with the interviewer who maybe has a go at him for Scientology or his beliefs about psychiatric drugs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, hey, if I was getting interviewed about these things, I wouldn't be getting angry. I'll just be saying,
why is there the anger? Why would someone else's ignorance or someone else's missing out that anger you?
I know. I'll
just feel sorry for them.
Exactly.
Like, man, I'm sorry that you're not experiencing what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, I'll just be like, no, this is what's going on. Matt Lauer, who's interviewing him or whatever, like this is how. And I don't know, but I think it's because he isn't a fool.
He isn't a fool. There's something. I mean, you look in Tom Cruise's eyes.
But I know
and he doesn't quite have that.
But I know because years ago, like, I hadn't fully achieved it, and I was like that. Like, if someone would say something, I would then sort of react to it and then be like, it's something about,
because someone threatens your bubble. Someone
Yeah,
threatens your bubble. Someone
weird.
threatens your doubt. Like for me, like, you know, I mean, I'm not completely confident in my Christianity. I'm still dealing with my doubts. I get a little defensive or a little pokey if someone kind of pokes at me a bit too much. And I realize that I'm like, okay, that's because of my own issues. Like if someone's getting me angry because of threatening my religion, I have to realize, okay, that's my own weakness. That's my own lacking. I can't get angry at that person. It's my own. I need to go pray or study more Bible to actually become more confident in my own things, because I should not be having that reaction.
Yeah.
Just like Scientologists should not be getting aggressive towards people that don't agree with them. Because if it works, them attacking you should have no ground.
Yeah, and also, sometimes they do this, and you probably maybe noticed it, that fakeness will come in as well, where they go, I don't mind. You know, like if someone says something bad about something.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like you can tell.
What you believe is what you believe.
Yeah,
like,
but as in they're pretending like they're not ridging. They're like, no, I mean, I'm not affected at all. Like, I believe in Scientology, and it's totally... Do you know what I mean? As in, there's some people who get angry when someone challenges
and then
their
some
beliefs.
people get a little passive-aggressive.
Yeah, they put on a fake
It's a bit of a passive-aggressive thing.
But what I feel like I've achieved now is literally, it really is that I totally believe it, and I'm not fake. Like, I genuinely am cool with it.
Yeah, but what I often find is because I would walk in there and I was full of doubts. I would call them. I thought I was just calling them out on everything, and I'd be like, you know, what's up with this? What's up with this? Oh, you guys, is this part of? You know, I'd walk into a thing. I'm like, oh, this is, you know, is this you guys brainwashing me right now?
What?
I'd give them a good run. I'm like, oh, you guys, you know, because there'd be word clearing me or something. I'm like, you know, and I didn't agree with the concept. They're like, oh, you need to check for more MUs. I'm like, oh, are you guys just trying to use cognitive dissonance to brainwash me right now? They're like, oh, what's cognitive dissonance? No, I was being a cunt, you know. I was just going on.
Okay, that's a psych term, cognitive dissonance.
I was calling them everything, and some people were good. Like some genuine people was like, yeah, sure. You know, some people were actually cool about it. But some people will pretend to, like you said, pretend to be cool about it. But then, you know, they're like, oh yeah, what's true for you is true for you. They kind of pull that, you know, what's true for you. And I love that term, but they kind of pull it, you know. And then you can kind of tell they're throwing dagger eyes at you as you turn your back to them, you know. And they're like, no, writing their KRs up about you, you know, as you're going, you know, they're pulling all that, you know, passive aggressive bullshit on you.
Yeah.
And it's just petty. I think Scientology, from my experience, a lot of people are just so freaking petty because there's something off about them. I feel personally, that's why I feel like they lack substance. Like I feel like there's a lack of what I put it down to is a lack of love. So you know how we were talking about lack of empathy when regging and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I feel like they've gotten so caught up in their admin and their stats that they've lost track of what the substance of a human being is. Actual love. And I feel like they've replaced love with affinity. So you look at Scientology, when you walk into the org, I did not hear love, like, I maybe heard the term love maybe used once or twice. Yeah. And that was to explain to give affinity. Yeah. You know, that was to explain affinity. But love in itself is powerful. Like, I think it's like the most powerful energy in the universe because it transcends all that. And I think what they're trying to do is they kind of twist love. They kind of change love into affinity. So they're like, oh, I have high affinity for you. I don't love you. I have high affinity for you. You know, where it's a bit of a fake kind of copy of the real thing. Yeah. So then there's something lacking there. Like, you know, because I think love is again, you know how I was talking about one of the fundamental things that we as human beings desire, just like spiritual fulfillment. I think love is one of the things that we fulfill. Like we desire. I think that's part of what God. I think for me, I think God has unconditional love for everyone. I think that's, you know, when you have that, that's what really makes you happy. You know, so I feel like they're kind of lacking that. They have this affinity for people, maybe, but they don't have they don't really think about love. I mean, you know, it's in what is great. LRH is what is greatness. But that I tell you what, I probably only heard that thing used once, maybe, and not even once. I heard the quote referred to once. I never heard them actually talk about the quote. It's offhandedly mentioned. And that he uses the word love, you know, the ability to love others regardless of their faults. So something like that. I'm paraphrasing at the moment, and that's a powerful verse. It's a really powerful verse. Everyone, you know, most people I talk to about it, they're like, "Wow, that's a really powerful verse." You know why? Because he uses the word love. Love has a weight to it. Love has it has a drive to it. Affinity doesn't quite. If you replace that word love with affinity, the ability to have affinity for others, you know, regardless of them, it's not the same, is it?
No,
I mean, do you think it's the same if you replace affinity with love?
No, I don't know. I mean, I've been in Scientology for years, and I've looked up the word affinity heaps of times, but I feel it's a word that I'll never incorporate into my own language. I just feel like I don't need the word affinity. It just doesn't mean. I don't know.
It doesn't quite have the same.
It's just weird. It's just I have a lot of affinity.
It's a weird replacement for the word love, because the reason why I think they've done it, I think it was an intentional thing, because I think that you know, you look at like, you know, the battlefield, for example, you know, World War II or something like that. You know, the mercy. Sometimes, you know, you have two guys in a pit, and, you know, or someone surrendered, and, you know, all their life they've been told this person's evil. You know, you have some Nazis that were just brainwashed. You know, they had so much brainwashing done to them, and to say the Americans are evil or the Russians are dogs. You know, they don't deserve any mercy. But when you look at someone in the eyes, there's that, you know, because we all have that kind of inner love in us. It transcends all that brainwashing. It transcends all that cognitive dissonance. It transcends all the education that you might have had, to where it goes down to our base level of humanity, which is the desire to show compassion and love for others. And that's why you see mercy. That's why you see kind of unexplainable acts of kindness to people. And I feel like, you know, and because it goes below all that brainwashing. You can't control love. It's an uncontrollable force. You will do good. You will do good for your fellow man, no matter what, if you have that love in you. And I feel like what they try to do,
well, yeah, so,
it makes you hard. Like, if you have love, it makes you harder to control. The church can't control you as much. If you're taught to love others, then if they're telling you to do something that isn't quite right, if they're telling you to break something that's not quite right, you can't do it because you love that person.
Yeah, well, that's what I noticed when I was on staff, because I felt like I kind of have that love thing, right? When it came to dealing with other Scientologists in public and stuff, and I felt like other people, I guess they didn't have it as strong, and they could read a policy and it could make them act more like a robot and treat other people like
robots. Yeah, not script.
Yeah,
rather than actually being
just like,
human beings.
Whereas me, I would be like, I would add my love to the policy, because I feel like I was adding common sense to it and like how to apply it. So it's just like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but
I don't know.
The thing I found is that, like, I found a lot of people, they became kind of like Scientology. The tech works. Like, I can say as much as I want about Scientology, but the tech works. And I feel like what I find is, when I was looking at people, because I was looking for substance. The reason why we moved to Melbourne, the reason why I went to Scientology is because I was looking for substance and meaning in life. I was looking for love. Because I feel like that love is what provides substance in life, what we're all yearning for and looking for. And I'm looking at like OT8s or Believing. I'm like, yeah, you guys are able people. You guys are capable as all hell. You know, you guys can do a lot of stuff. But you're like able robots. You know, you're like able robots. You're running on a script. I feel like you look at me, and yeah, you're able, and you could probably know how to convince me to do most things. You probably know how to control me, move me to one thing, use your tone 40 to have control over me or whatever, you know. But I feel like there's no, like, I feel like the human's almost gone in them. I feel like them as beings themselves, I feel like they've kind of been stripped away and just kind of made into this walking policy book. You know?
Yeah, well,
you get what I'm saying? Like, they're not actually people. I feel like some people, they don't really feel like people anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sad. It's really sad because they believe what they're doing is right. Like, and that's the thing that I see with Scientology. I feel like all these people, I feel like their good nature has been preyed upon and twisted and manipulated, because their data in their head to what they think is right and what they think is where they can show their compassion has been manipulated into becoming a tool for the church to use. So where they believe that because people have a really powerful, you know, you look at Mother Teresa, her compassion was so strong and it made her do so many cool things. Martin Luther King, his compassion was so strong that he kind of effectively ended racism, or a big part of racism in America. It was because that was all fueled of his love and his compassion for the human being. So when that's preyed upon and kind of twisted, I feel like that's what they're doing. They're preying and twisting and capitalizing on people's love for others.
Yeah, like I was saying to you on the phone, it was kind of like, I mean, the church has gotten out of hand, and there's evidence indicating it literally has been infiltrated by the government. Like, no kidding, back in the 80s when Hubbard went out of the scene. Because it was pretty cool in the 70s. It was popular, like the course rooms were packed and stuff. But it was kind of like the McDonald's of religion. It was like, because you think of the Western world, and
it's just
fast
food or
religion,
exactly. You know, like,
So
you want this, you know, $50 and you'll get grade 1. You know, you can do that.
Yeah, it's set up your franchise and go in there and buy it. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, and you have to understand as well, when it came up in the 50s and 60s and stuff, that was when all these franchises from America were starting up, like McDonald's and Burger King and Starbucks, and they were all leaving America and going across the Western world and setting up all these franchises. And Scientology was just one of them, except Hubbard had a whole spiritual thing going on with Scientology and a whole philosophy thing and a whole funky thing, really. It was really interesting, but then it all went out of hand. But anyway, it's just like, now it's kind of like, when it got out of hand, the church, it just became more of literally like a corporation. Because I was dealing with a pay TV company recently, and talking to them on the phone was similar to like trying to talk to the church on the phone when I was dealing with the church. Like, they'll do the similar things in that the person will be just trying to stat push, and then they'll try and handball the problem onto someone else, and they'll treat you like a number, and it was just a pain in the ass, really. And so they're just, the church is just acting like every other corporation, really.
But they're not as successful as every other corporation. Because they're still living in the 70s. They're like, we're still going to do mail pushes, even though, you know, you look at ANZ or some of the big companies, they've gone digital, you know, but they're like, oh no, we got to have that material out, you know, to get that material in. What I think, I'm not kind of going on to what I was saying before. I'm not sure what it was like with Hubbard, you know, because the only experience I've had is within these last like month or so. But what I feel like they've done is, I feel like they've actually kind of created a 3-tiered system. So where, and the 3-tiered kind of delusion, right? Like, you know, and which is it's just a money making machine. You have the public, you know, they believe, you know, the public are convinced that if something, so just to have the stable datum here to make for my point to make sense. The stable datum is that we all, as human beings, we have a drive on our 7th or 8th dynamic to have fulfillment.
Yeah,
you know, we have that fulfillment. We want that fulfillment. It's kind of
not everyone, by the way, but a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's part of, like, my theory goes on. It's everyone, you know.
Yeah, but with some people who are like atheists or these hardcore skeptics who hate religion and that sort of stuff, they've like hidden that part of them. Well,
they've hidden it, but it's still part of them. Like, it's still
there, but it's just been squashed.
It's like a guy who, you know, is a sexual pervert. Like, it doesn't, like, it just means his second dynamic is messed up. I feel like an atheist, because that's why a lot of like people are depressed. I feel like a lot of people are depressed because their 8th and 7th dynamic is repressed.
Yeah, exactly.
And because society these days has strayed away and made spirituality such a taboo topic. You know, in high schools, for example, like, you look at mental health, depression's on the rise so much.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wrote a Facebook article about this. I really believe that because, you know, if you believe in the 8 dynamics, you know, our 7th and 8th dynamic has become such a taboo topic in high schools. You know, spirituality has become something you don't talk about. You're uncool.
Well, it's like science have just denied that spirituality exists. They're just ignoring the tons of evidence.
Yeah, and
there's tons of evidence. They're fucking sorry. It just pisses me off because it's just. Too, yeah. I've got a lot of charge in this because I was brought up as before I got into Scientology. So like 20 years old, all up to as a 20-year-old, knowing like barely anything about spirituality, thinking that it's probably psychics are a scam or like
it's like a sham.
Like none of this stuff and all of this stuff is made up and UFOs are like not true and all this sort of stuff. And then you keep on investigating things and you find out all these evidences of all these unusual things are going on, and the school systems are just full of propaganda to keep people just as growing up as Diet Coke drinking, McDonald's eating, like paying all your money to the banks in loans and just a slave.
Well,
you know,
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know about. You'll have to talk to me later about UFOs. I'm not really. I don't have a reality with you on that one. I don't really know about it. But I think with spirituality, like with the culture these days, you know, you look at pop culture and you look at a thing like that. It's people have really gone away from our Christian, like, you know, because you look at the 2,000 years, our Christian value, like. So the Western society has been built on Christian values, you know, love others, be kind, generosity, and all that stuff. You know, we have these Christian values, and spirituality is always part of it. You know, you love God. You know, I'm not necessarily saying, you know, I'm not trying to say that you have to be a Christian to have that spiritual fulfillment, but that's what our society these last 2,000 years has been based on.
Yeah. So basically, so if you're going along in life, you have something more to look forward to, or something more to achieve, and that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
But you also have a past to what you think about spirituality as a part of your life. You know, your 7th and 8th dynamic is not something that you completely ignore.
But if you just believe there's a physical universe and you're just a body and that's it, it's like it's really, really shit, because it's like unless you're driving around in a really crash hot Ferrari,
but even then,
you're not going to be happy. Even then, even then, if you're one of these people who does work hard and manages to get the Ferrari,
then
right,
what now?
Then they still feel shit.
Because the thing is because we have these 7th and 8th dynamics, and the thing is what's happened is that with and this is why I think depression is a thing. Like this is because I help a lot of people through depression. I talk to a lot of people, you know, at counsel, and what I find is that everyone that I've met that's depressed, it has had something happen. They've either had a bad experience with spirituality, or they don't have any spirit. They've never been raised with it. So what I feel like is when we've decided, you know, with society, a lot of kids these days, and a lot of people that are in their mid-20s and stuff like that, they've had to take out the spirituality because they kind of think it's not cool. They've kind of gone under the science path of like, yeah, you know, only what we see is what, you know, what you see is what you get. There's all that spirituality stuff is crap. Therefore, they have these 7th and 8th dynamics that have these urges and these drives, and they're completely repressing it. They're blocking it away. They're not even looking at it. They're denying its existence. And then they're sitting here thinking, why am I unhappy? You know, because people will have all these things, and they're thinking, well, I have everything that I think that I need, and I'm still not happy. Because you look, we're actually we're in one of the most spoiled generations now. We have iPhones. Like, you know, kids will have so much more than what we've ever had before. You know, as a kid, I had so much more than what I ever had. Most of these kids have so much more than what they ever have. So they reach this point, and they're like, okay, well, I have this stuff, and they're more unhappy now than they've ever been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and because they either think spirituality is an uncool topic, or they don't really know about it. They have no real reality with spirituality, so they have no idea why they're unhappy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have no idea why they're unhappy, so they're just going to think the world sucks.
But and you could also
can't be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And you could also say spirituality is also just good mental health. As in, there's a lot of people, right? Because you go on in life and you collect bad experiences, and you can end up feeling shit. But if you know that there's spiritual tech out there, right? Like, let's say you do some Scientology auditing, or you do something called access consciousness and stuff. What do you do then? You start getting spiritual technology into you, and you start becoming positive, happy and shit, and then you're happy.
Exactly. But
people don't know that. They don't know that spiritual technology
It's because they don't have the awareness of the drive of spirituality and the effectiveness of it. They don't have a reality on it at all, so they have no idea that, hey, maybe the reason I'm happy is because I haven't really got my spirit. I haven't really got my spirit.
Yeah, do you know what it's like? It's kind of like, imagine this, right? So let's equate it to food, right? So basically, the average person these days is like, if you look at the spirituality thing, it's like they're like just obese slobs, right? It's like they're obese slobs, and they got pains, and they got and problems and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, because you're obese. But the thing is, with spirituality is you can't see it with your eyes, right? So they don't know that they're like unhealthy, obese slobs in the spiritual universe, right? And that they don't know that there's places they can go to, like yoga, this access conscious thing, with the access bars thing I'm talking about, Avatar, Scientology, Christianity, you can try Islam,
religion.
Try all these things, right? Hinduism, try all these things, right? And you can actually start getting healthy and stopping a slop. So for me, when I was 20 years old, I was spiritually obese, and so that's why I felt depressed and shit, right? But and also, like, the way it is the corporations designed this way. They literally hide spiritual technology from the world. They hide spiritual information and knowledge and all these sorts of stuff.
Well, it makes sense. Because then people buy more. Because people think, oh, well, maybe I need to get another skirt, or maybe I need to buy another suit, buy another car, and then I'll be happy. So then people go and get this retail. Because I noticed when I was working in Gympie, you know, at the bank, I was making quite a bit of money, and I was feeling unfulfilled. I was feeling unhappy. I'm like, man, my life kind of sucks. And you know what I did? When I went to the mall looking for something to buy, because I thought, oh, I need to get my short little adrenaline rush, rather than me actually going, hey, maybe my 7th and 8th dynamic is fucked and I need to actually sort that out. I went to buy more. I became like just
exactly.
Buyer.
They literally do that, and you see it with clothing billboards and stuff. And hey, look, I like nice clothes as well, and like nice watches and stuff. But they'll show on clothing billboards someone looking cool with like a Nike jacket on or something. So instead of somebody like doing their TRs or getting audited or doing yoga or whatever to feel comfortable and confident being themselves, right? They'll end up seeing a Nike jacket and going, you know, I'll buy this cool Nike jacket and I'll feel confident. And I'll feel like I'm like some sort of Brad Pitt and stuff. So it's like the corporations have tricked all these people into thinking that living that whole materialistic life is a way to get happiness.
But it's not.
It's just a con.
It's such a. It's like a hamster wheel. You know, like, you know, and the thing is people are stuck on that cycle, and I think that's why people get depressed, because they feel like life is a hamster, but they feel like life doesn't have a meaning.
And then they come across Scientology, the church or whatever,
and then they come across Scientology,
and they go, yes, this is it, because this is like
holy
something
crap.
more.
Okay, so this is kind of going on to my story with how I got into Scientology was, you know, I've had that spiritual experience, but I kind of rejected it. You know, because of my experiences, I kind of rejected the spirituality that I grew up with. It was still in my head, but I kind of rejected it, and I became a materialist. You know, thought if I had money, you know, I worked in a bank, I made decent money for a 17-year-old. For a 17-year-old on $30 an hour, I mean, I was killing it. You know, and I had no expenses. I just had money. I had money going out my, you know, I could buy whatever I wanted. You know, and I bought everything I wanted because I thought in high school money was going to make me happy. I always had a lack of money, so I bought everything I wanted. I got to the point where I'm like, I don't know what to buy. Literally got everything I want. You know, and I realized, okay, crap, something needs to change. So I packed up my bags, quit my job, and I'm like, you know what? I'm changing something up in life. I'm not living where I'm depressed. I'm moving to Melbourne. I'm just going to have a new adventure, figure out what I'm doing, you know? End up in Scientology. When I went into Scientology, you go, you know, what happens is that because, you know, you go in there, you know, they break down everything. Like, they break down communication, they break down confidence into these really, like, these things that you commonly kind of know, like communication and how to talk to people, and you know how to identify, you know, who's going to, you know, who's going to suppress you and who's going to be a good person to hang out with, you know, ARC, you know, all these kind of things that you have a general idea about, and they're not like mind-blowing concepts, but it's broken down to in such a way that you're like, it's like, I like to call it earth-shatteringly simple. It's like groundbreakingly simple. You know, you're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. And even when I talk to my friends about it, like I explain like ARC to them, you know, or like just, you know, break down the communication, like, you know, your TR0, your TR1, you know, you look at it and you're like, oh my god, that makes sense. But you just don't quite think about it. Like, it's not like it's some, like, you know, math concept that's a million miles away that you just get blown away and this is the secret to life. It's just like, wow, I never quite thought about it that way. And when you go on it, you know, you go in there and you feel more confident. You know, you walk in there and you do these courses, you do these basic beginner courses, you know, and you're like, wow, this all makes sense. This makes sense. Oh my gosh, this is the answer. You make these connections, and you walk out there, and you're feeling amazing. You know, you feel like your relationships improve. You feel like you be more confident because you learn these really basic things that are just like...
Well, by the way, speaking of that basic thing, the biggest basic thing that because I first got in through Dianetics, the biggest basic thing was just the fact that there's a reactive mind. That for me was life-changing because I thought, well, that explains why I felt this way, and that explains why that person acts ridiculous, and all this sorts of stuff. And it was just fantastic knowing that. It's just that, it's just a bad part of the person's mind that's gotten out of hand, and they just need to get the good counselling, and then they'll be sweet.
Like, for me, the personal efficiency course and the whole idea of the stable datum, and then
that's
ARC.
good. Yeah.
Blew my mind away because you know, when you have that false stable datum and how it can cause you to kind of be, you know, just all these different things, and you walk out of there. I remember walking out of it, you know, I did my personal efficiency course, the first thing I did when I walked in, and I went out in the world and I felt amazing. Like, I felt like it's like a drug because everything makes sense all of a sudden. You feel like, I literally said to one of my friends, I'm like, I felt like I was blind, but now I see. Like, I literally felt like that. I felt like I was like, have you ever watched that movie Limitless?
No.
It's pretty much Limitless is like where this guy finds a pill, like, you know, it's under the idea that we use 7% of our brain, but then if he takes this pill, he uses 100% of his brain, and he can just learn language like there's no, like in like, you know, a couple of minutes of learning it, you know, pretty much he just sees everything in his brain. That's how I felt. Like, I felt like I was on the Limitless pool, and when my first couple of days of Scientology, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the answer I've been looking for, this is amazing. I walk out there. You know, I literally had it where I'd do the personal efficiency course, you know, and I'd having a conversation with someone, you know, after I walk out, you know, and I'm like, oh my god, I understand why this person's saying this way. You feel like you just understand how the world works, and you know, I felt like literally my senses were enhanced and all this stuff, and it's like you're on a drug. You get so addicted, you get so hooked on these basic courses because it provides these simple little answers that people just haven't quite...
Can I say as well an example of one of these answers is, right, let's say the reactive mind one with me, because I dealt with this like a week ago when I was doing some acting thing, and it was like, I came across this lady who was like taking my jacket or whatever, taking people's jackets, and she was like nasty. She was like, why the hell did you bring your jackets up here? You weren't supposed to bring the jackets or whatever. And if that was me before Scientology, before I knew about the reactive mind, I would have thought, oh my god, I'm bad, I've stuffed up, and oh my god, this hurts my feelings and all this sort of stuff. But now that I know more about the reactive mind and I could stop and actually observe the woman, I could see that clearly she was like tone 1.5. She was anger toned. Clearly she needs some help, spiritual help and counselling and stuff. Need to come more uptone. And in fact, I wasn't wrong in that situation for bringing that jacket in the room. She was just this angry bitch, basically. You know what I mean? Whereas, and so that's the truth of the situation. She was, I watched her. She was like walking around. She was like nasty to people, and I was just like, wow, this is like a nasty witch woman. But in the past, I would actually be like, oh my god, I'm such an idiot. Why did I bring the jacket up? I'm wrong. Blah blah blah. So after you get these wins from Scientology, you go into the real world and you get into you get into a situation and you go like, oh, I see what's going on now. I feel good, and you think, oh, isn't Scientology great? Isn't this information great?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like, I walked out, and what got me was just, I mean, these simple things. Like, I got in an argument with my stepmother, and I knew exactly, because before I always like had no idea. I'm like, why does she feel this way about me? I don't understand what is going on. This is crazy. You know, I just thought, oh, fucking women are crazy. You know, whatever. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I understand. She actually has a stable datum in her head about me, that she has a stable datum in her head that I'm an asshole and that I'm responsible for a lot of the problems that have happened in my dad's new marriage, in her relationship. So if I challenge, I'm like, I was trying to be nice to her, and she gets angry at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I understand why. Because I'm challenging her data. I'm shaking up her world, and she's doing anything she can to anger me, to find her, to better that, to re-solidify her false stable datum. She can't have the fact that maybe I've changed, I'm no longer an asshole. I'm still, because then she'd have to kind of reevaluate her reality, and that's confronting. And it was just like little things like that. And then I walked around in the world, and this is one of my biggest experiences, where I was walking down Melbourne, and I can't explain it, but I just felt like my senses were enhanced. I felt like I noticed things that I never normally noticed.
Like what?
Just like, you know, when I was watching, like just I felt like I was more aware. Like I'd see something, and I'd just be like, normally when I walk down the street, I just kind of, you know, I'm in my own world, kind of thinking about something. I wouldn't really notice people, but I noticed conversations. I feel like I could hear things, and I'm like, okay, that's happening. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm walking down the road. I feel like the world had more flavor all of a sudden. Like I noticed things, just, you know, details, like, you know, oh, a sign says this, or someone's saying this, someone's having this conversation, this is happening, and my hearing was enhanced. I'd hear conversations, and I kind of, you know, as I'm walking in the street, and kind of pick up on a story that's going on. I'm like, oh, this person's going through this, you know, and I'm like, wow, this is just incredible. And you feel like you're on a drug. You get so addicted because you're like, your life kind of felt grey beforehand. Because you
exactly. It was grey and dull. It was so
like
boring.
Grey, dull, boring. And
hold on. And even when you find out about the corruption of the church and some of the wild shit,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It still never goes back to the greyness that it was before Scientology. That's why I love about it, because it's just such a cool, like, it just suddenly life becomes interesting and cool.
Life becomes interesting and cool.
If I wasn't the one who had a bad experience with the church, but even if I did, and I see it in the people who have had bad experiences with the church, right? They're still go-getters and excited about life and like looking into things and stuff. You know, like, I don't know. It just makes life cool.
But what I found is, like, okay, you're on a high. You're on like a spiritual and mental high, because they kind of have these spiritual processes that prove to you that there's something else, and then all of a sudden you kind of feel like you just unlocked a certain part of you that you never knew existed. Your seventh and eighth. You never knew that. You never really addressed it. And you're like, oh my gosh, this exists.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what's going on? And you just feel alive again. And you feel. And the thing, what happens is that you become so hooked on that to where you're like, okay, I'll do anything you guys want. You guys are the truth. You guys are the best things since sliced bread. And what happens? You become so hooked on that to where you cannot picture going back. I remember literally having conversations, because what happened is I'll be having conversations with my mother or my friends, and they'll be giving me all this information about how fucked up Scientology is, how they brainwash, how they abuse. And level, you know, David Miscavige would be abusing people, and there was like, you know, abductions, and there was all this crazy stuff going on. And the thing is I was looking at it, and I'm like, I didn't even think it was like untrue. I'm like, yeah, it's probably true. I saw some things, and I'm like, yeah, this is probably true. Like, I actually believed it. I'm like, yeah, no, I believe that. You know, I do think that about the church. I see some parallels, but I'm like, this is still too much. I can't give this up. I can't go back.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I can't go back. You feel like like a bit of a meth addict. You're like, I just need my next dose. I need my next course. I need my next auditing session. Because
some people like that with auditing.
You're so hooked because it gives you this rush, this spiritual rush. And what I feel like what's happened, so that's the public. People are convinced that they get that rush, they get that hook. They're kind of like drug addicts. They're kind of hooked. Yeah. You know, I kind of almost see, like, when you're saying this, I kind of felt like a drug addict. You know, and then so you pay money, you have this money mechanism. They'll be like, okay, take my money. I want the next course. I want the next thing. This is the best thing I've ever had in my life. You know, and then you have the staff. So there's going to be a three-pronged system. So that's the public. They believe, and then they have the belief that if something's wrong, if something doesn't quite feel right, if something feels a little unfulfilling, oh, that's an outness in me, or maybe I just haven't quite gotten to the next level yet. Maybe once I get to the next level, you know, I'll find that fulfillment that I'm looking for. You know, they believe, instead of actually saying, okay, maybe the church doesn't quite deliver this, if there's any outnesses, it's, oh, I haven't gone to this level yet. The church, you know, I just need to go up the bridge more. You know, any outnesses is not the church's fault. It's their fault. And it just shows why they need the product more. So they become this like unlimited demand cycle to where the church can do no wrong. On the staff side, they're equally as kind of in this delusion. I like to say it's a delusion because they believe they want to help people. They're good-natured people. I genuinely believe. When I went to staff, I want to help people. Everyone there, I really believe, wants to make the world a better place and wants to help people. And they're told that this auditing and all this stuff is going to help people, and then people see it. Yeah, it helps people. You do the auditing session, or you give people the product, and people are giving you all these amazing stories, like, oh my gosh, this has changed my life. Oh my gosh, and then you see it, I'm like, oh wow, I'm really helping people, and you get that kind of rush from helping people. You're like, oh wow, I'm making the world a better place, and then you genuinely believe it. So you have these two people, you know. So the public validates the staff. And then the staff validate the public. Oh my God! You look at you. You know, your life's improved so much. You need the next course. You know, oh my God, you're having this issue. You know, that's what we need to register in the next course. So the public validates the staff into thinking that what they're doing is right, and then the staff validate the public. You know, so they're kind of validating each other. And then management, you know, and this is I'm not sure. I've never really met LRH. I've never met LRH or have anything with them. I just assume because I think he was the one who set up the framework for how it works. He convinced himself that, oh my God, you know, initially he wanted to capitalize on people's spirituality. So he gives them this rush, you know, he knew that the man had a spiritual drive and he wanted to make money out of it. So he did an auditing session, gives them that rush, and then it kind of dwindles down again. Next
well, I disagree, but anyway,
it's okay. Yeah, this is just my opinion, you know. And then so it's this constant cycle. And but then the thing is, because man's basically good. If he knew the whole time he was just deluding people and actually scamming people, it would crumble. Eventually, he would do something to self-sabotage. But the thing is, he deludes himself to where he has both the public and the staff validating his delusion, and he validates both of their delusions. So it's just this big cycle of validating each other's delusions to where they're in this massive kind of vortex of reality.
Do you know what I think contributes to that? Is something to do with postulates, right? Because
I don't know about postulates. Could you explain that to me?
Okay, so it's basically like having a thought or an idea and making that come true, right?
Oh, a bit like the placebo effect.
Yeah, so like let's say you say like it's like the secret. There, the law of attraction. Yeah. So you say this is how it is, and I'm gonna ignore all the other evidence or anything. I'm making it come true, right? And I believe the law is true, right? And it can create good luck for yourself, and the secret, the law of attraction, this whole you make a postulate thing is possible, right? But here's where it gets like a bit tricky and goes a bit out of hand, in that when you get a group doing it, what happens in the group in that they ignore evidences or counter intentions or things that might go against the goal. So they go, we're clearing the planet, and then someone might say, well, the stats last year totally aren't indicating that at all. And they go, no, that's law of attraction, law of attraction, the postulate thing, we're making this thing true, right? And it's like, yes, like it's a good thing to postulate and go by the law of attraction and this sort of stuff, but it can let things get out of hand and just go into delusion easily because people they ignore evidences because they're like, no, I'm having faith. You know what I mean?
Well, what I believe is, I completely get what you're saying. I think I have a similar viewpoint, but slightly different angle on it. Is I think they have this like people there, because I really do believe people there are good-natured people that want to help. But the thing is, I think that when you're Scientology, you kind of have to do some things that you don't quite feel morally right with. You know, you have to disconnect from some people. You have to kind of treat people kind of like shit sometimes. I really feel like when I left Scientology, people had to treat me like shit. You know, I got treated. As soon as I said, hey, I'm not really my game anymore, I got cut off. You know, people all of a sudden, people I was friends with, boom. Yeah. I thought we were friends, boom. Won't answer me, won't talk, look at me like I'm a complete stranger. I mean, that's a bit of a, you know, you have to disconnect from some people. You have to do some things that are a bit are not quite right, you know, because you have this belief, because they have this belief that they're doing it for the greater good. They're clearing the planet. They're saving the world. And I think I think it's a sham. I don't think they're saving the world at all.
Yeah.
But I think this has been created. This idea that they're saving the world has been a goal created so they can actually justify, because they have the belief that you need to do the most survival action. They're like, well, we're doing the most survival action. It doesn't matter if we screw this one person over because we're saving the world. He's getting in the way of us saving the world.
Yeah.
So they can use that as a justification for the actions that they do.
Yes, yeah,
And
exactly.
that is not actually right. That is not what Jesus taught you to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not what actually morality is. You love you love people. You don't. So people they'll justify throwing people under the bus. And
but also you save the world one person at a time.
One person
you know
and
what
loving
I mean?
each other. Love.
So
the thing is, when you stop showing love, you stop saving the world. You stop doing good. Because when you throw people under the bus, you're not saving the world.
So they'll say they'll be like, okay, we'll milk this public for as much money as we can get because it's okay because it's for the greater good, right? For the greater good. But here's the problem: when you go and do that, what happens? That person goes on Chris Shelton's YouTube channel and goes and says Scientology is really bad. Then goes on TV and says it's really bad, and then revels up with other Scientology haters who had the similar experience happen. And then you have this whole army of people who hate Scientology, and then it's just like that is not helping.
But Scientology. But it's not only that because
and also spiritually it's wrong as well.
Yeah, because that's only a symptom of actually when you're no longer in the mode of goodness. Bad things happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're committing an overt against that person. So it's just like you're gonna pull in.
You're committing because I think you have to be in the mode of goodness because there's power in goodness. There's power in love.
Yeah.
And when you're not operating from love, you can't be powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, okay,
you can be exactly. It makes you more OT when you're in love.
Kind of going back to my point about where I think there is this delusion, this grand kind of delusion scheme, is that what will happen is, and why they kind of get so worked up about it, is because they've had to do some things that aren't quite right. But with a justification that they're saving the planet, so they're So if they had to pop their bubble, if they had to actually say, okay, maybe this is a bit, maybe I was fucking taken for a ride, they'd actually have to face some of the things that they did. Oh, I fucking disconnected from this person, or I scammed this person, or I did this. But they don't want to face up to that because they'll actually have to see, hey, they're not actually they've done some kind of fucked up shit. So that in a way, in an effort to hide from that and hide from their overts, they become more extreme Scientologists because their justification for that is their belief they're saving the planet. So they get more zealous. They're zealous. They're becoming a zealot justifies their actions. And in order to, and it's kind of like a cycle. The more actions they do, the more they have to hide and become more of a zealot because that's their only escape from their actions that they do. They're non-good actions. They're the way they screw people over. So,
and hold on, I think people don't like confronting that they're wrong about something. I think they can't handle that.
And it builds up, and it builds up.
Yeah, and more and more they get on this topic, and so they cannot confront being wrong because it happens in all these other areas in life. People can't, someone will study for years and years to be like some sort of doctor or something, and then find out their job was just a scam and that they were just getting ripped off by the universities or something like that, just to sell big pharma medications.
But they won't handle
confronting that.
So what they'll do instead of that is they'll get angry and start attacking the people that try to bust that delusion. Yeah. They can't face up to it. And, I had a really interesting time. When I was leaving Scientology, I got asked these kind of questions. They're like, they would ask me questions because I was being reg for a day or two to try to stop me from leaving. They were like, do you think we're all stupid? Do you think that I'm stupid? They literally asked me questions do you think that I'm stupid? And initially, on face value, I took it, they're trying to think, do you think you're smarter than me or something like that? Initially, I saw it as that. But when I thought about it more, what I think is because they've had to do some things that they don't quite feel right. And when I'm kind of talking about, hey, because I was saying, hey, I just don't think there's enough love in the reason they're asking me why you want to leave, I'm like, I don't think there's enough love in this organization. I don't feel like you guys are coming from a mode of love, a mode of goodness. I don't feel like there's that spiritual love there. And when they would ask me, do you think we're stupid? Do you think we're all? They're literally this isn't some sham. Do you think we're so dumb that we all got caught up by sham? They literally asked me questions like that. And initially, I took it as, they're just trying to think, they're just trying to, because I think that's what they thought they were kind of doing. But I think subconsciously, it was almost a bit of a plea for help. Do you really think I'm stupid? Do you think I have messed up? Because they're kind of crying out because they know they've done some stuff that isn't right. And I felt really sorry for them because I'm like, crap, I think they're crying out for help.
Well, they're sort of
subconsciously,
they're sort of trapped in there.
They're trapped in their delusion
because their families are all caught in all this stuff, and maybe it probably isn't best for them to actually leave the church because they're so tied in there. You know what I mean? But overall, spiritually, it's just you need to have freedom. You need
You
to
need to have
not
freedom.
be tied down.
And what gets me is I actually felt so sorry for those people. Like, the thing is, I really feel like a lot of anti-Scientologists and stuff like that, they come from a thing of hate. They come, oh, the Scientology screwed me over. But I actually, like, I feel like I come from a middle of, like, I actually genuinely feel sorry for those people. Like, I genuinely feel sorry for Scientologists.
Yeah, yeah.
I genuinely, like, love them. I genuinely wish the best of them because I feel like these people are good people that are being exploited. Like, I genuinely feel like they're being exploited.
Because I think they've gotten caught up in a game that's just gone out of hand.
It's
just gone wild.
And the thing is, the thing is, the games cause them to do stuff that isn't right and they commit over.
Yeah, violate their own personal integrity. Yeah.
And the thing is, they know that, and that's why I don't think Scientology can expand. Is expanded is why it's dwindling. Is because they've committed a lot of overts. And they're actually keeping themselves within ethics.
Exactly, yeah. And they're keeping themselves within ethics. Yeah.
They're keeping themselves within ethics because they know what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the thing is that they're so caught up in this delusion to where when someone actually leaves, because it's a group thing, you know, in order for them to, they have these overts, right? And in order for them to feel right and not feel right with themselves, they have to have everyone else saying, no, what we do, we're saving the planet, we're doing what's well. Because you can't really have someone by themselves. Like, you couldn't have a Scientologist without by themselves. I don't think you could believe. Like, it would be very difficult for a Scientologist by himself without the group kind of supporting it to actually kind of stay you know, in his delusion. He has to have that group mentality. That's why they're so close knit. That's why that's why they're all so close knit. They have very little interaction with the outside world.
Yeah, there's also, speaking of Div 16, this is also why they have problems with getting new people in or treating them weirdly, because they're so entrenched in this Scientology, especially they're born in it, they're so just in that universe, that Scientology world. You know what I mean? And you need to sort of, I think this whole two-terminal universe is an interesting idea, because you need to just go from one thing to another. There's something special about two. You know what I mean? So you go from one form of spirituality to another, and you can see things from an exterior point of view and different viewpoints and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, but they're in one thing, and so they're trapped. And they can't see anything.
And they're trapped.
Else.
And the thing is, I actually feel so sorry for them, because I look at them and I'm like, I feel like they're in a psychological prison.
Yeah.
I feel like they're in a prison of their own thing. I feel like it makes me actually put me to tears, because I look at them and I feel like they're so, like, I feel like their soul's crying out. Like, and when I leave, for example, I'm making them kind of confront their own overts, because when I'm saying, hey, I don't think you guys are showing love, I don't think you guys are doing right, they kind of have to think about it for a second. And the thing is, that brings, like, I saw some people that were literally, they were so hurt by me leaving. I'm not sure, I mean, yes, you could say it was kind of like an act, but I also think that I actually could feel like it was genuinely hurting them that I was leaving.
Yeah.
Because
they like new people in their
group. Like new people, but it's also because when someone leaves, that shows it challenges their reality. It challenges their
exactly.
reality.
Yeah, it makes them think. Yeah, it makes
them challenges their reality.
Yeah.
This person doesn't think we're right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you came along with this new guy, you tried it for a month or whatever, and then all of a sudden, so they thought, hold on, why the fuck is it bad? Like,
why?
You know what I mean?
Why is he not liking it? What's his game? What, you know, he should like this.
But there's one big thing that's really messed up with the church, and I noticed as soon as I decided I'm not going to be involved with the church ever again, right? It was so freeing. It was just like all this weight lifted off my back, because before that it was like, oh, I can't say this, or I can't do that. What's the church going to think? What's the church going to think? Oh, I'm going to get in trouble with ethics. Oh, the church. Oh, it's going to call me. But I want to go up the bridge, so I'll do what the church is. So when you decide that no longer can the church control your life, and that you're free to do what you want, the weight off your chest goes, and it's so good to just be able to say a communication and go, you know what? I don't give a shit if I offend someone. I don't care. You can't steal my spiritual freedom. You can't take my bridge from me. I can get my bridge somewhere else.
You can't monopolize,
you know what I mean?
And the thing is people are in their own prison thing, because they believe that that's their freedom. But the thing is once they've gone too deep, they feel like they're also scared of facing. I think it's also they're scared of facing up to what they've had to do, the people that they've had to push out of their lives. A lot of Scientologists have pushed people out of their lives. A lot of Scientologists have pushed me out of their lives, and I said, hey, it's not my game anymore. I love you guys. I don't hate you guys at all. I literally came in there like, I don't hate you guys at all. I love you guys. You guys are awesome people. It's just not my game anymore.
Yeah.
I literally went like, I don't hate you guys at all. I think you guys are awesome people. It's just not my game anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that spiritual love that I'm looking for. I don't see love in here.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's a lack of that. I feel like there's a lack of the spirit of life in there. I feel like people are lacking that kind of, there's je sais quoi. The tone I like to call it the tone 42. Like the tone 40. I made up my own tone 42. It's that unconditional love.
You're quite the squirrel right here.
Yeah, unconditional love. I feel like there's so much conditions on love in the church.
Yeah.
If you disagree with us, we're gonna hate you. And it goes against Ron's what is greatness.
Yeah, I know.
It goes against it.
Well, they pick and choose.
The disconnection thing goes against what Ron's what is greatness anyway. They pick and choose what
things they want to use. Like, for example, I was really shocked. This is one of the bits of information that helped me to leave the church, was that I found out there was apparently some policy there, and I haven't read it, okay? Maybe it doesn't exist, but I heard it existed, right? And it was talking about cannibalizing your public, and LRH was basically saying, don't milk your public like there's no tomorrow and just eat up your public and milk them for all they're worth. You know what I mean? Right? Because that's not how you treat a customer and stuff.
That's not how you treat a customer.
And you don't want to bankrupt your customer. Anyway, so you don't cannibalize your public. Makes total sense. I totally agree. Right? But of course, guess which policy is the one that the church just completely ignores?
That one.
That policy. Of course. But what one did they enforce massively? A policy where Hubbard says you should, like, sell as much as you can. Okay? And so I think it's like, I know Hubbard says one thing and he says the other, but it's just like, as in, try and sell as much as you can, but of course don't milk your
who the
public.
Is. If he can buy a lot of products, if he's capable of buying a lot of products, then sell him a lot of products.
Yeah.
But if it's going to hurt him and it's not right for him, don't do it.
So when you're looking at the church, you're looking at people who, I mean, I don't want to offend the church staff, you know, but they're not the highest quality Scientologists.
Well, the thing is, the people at the church staff are genuinely good people.
But also, they're not. You're not looking at the most talented Scientologists, though. I'm saying because a lot of the time, the most talented people and the smartest end up getting taken away with some sort of career thing because there's some sparkling shiny light, they're amazing or whatever, and they end up going off and doing something else, like in some big business thing, or they end up joining the indie movement because they're too smart. Like, what I'm saying is the church volunteers aren't necessarily the smartest Scientologists, right? But also, so that's why when people say, "Oh, I did this Scientology course, this auditing, and it was shit," it's just like, yeah, but you went to the church and, like, they don't have the best staff. But also, you're looking at people who are picking and choosing. Someone in management has picked and chosen what policy to read, and they've said, you're going to be doing this policy, and David Miscavige, who's at the top, he's sort of said, these are the policies you're going with and stuff, and it's just like, hey, you know, you're just ignoring all the other things by LRH.
Well, what I think is, like, for instance, what is greatness? I feel like if the church actually embraced that more, it would be so much, because the thing is, what is greatness was talking about love. It really was. And you tell you what gets me is that when I was in the church, and this is what got me. Like, it wasn't about the black PR. That's what they tried to make it about. Like, oh, you have black PR. It means you have withholds and overts and stuff like that. That's why you want to leave us and all that. It wasn't about even, like, seeing all the stuff about Dave Miscavige. It wasn't watching Going Clear. It wasn't watching all the documentaries. I watched a hell of a lot of documentaries. It wasn't all that. That was too, like, the flavor of what I was learning was so amazing to where it didn't matter. What made me decide this is it, this is not my game, was lack of love. It was like when I looked into an OT7's eyes and saw that there wasn't love there. Because I tell you what, if you go to, like, a black, you know, I've seen real Christians, like, I've seen, like, because I've had that, and this is what was going back to my experience with previous religion, which is why I think it was so important for me and why it saved my life when it comes to Scientology, when it saved me from Scientology, was that I've had it before when I've been, you know, when I went to Christian school. I've seen some pastors, I've looked into their eyes and they're shining. They love. They have that tone 42. There's just say quite the spirit of life. Like, there's love, just genuine, unconditional love. I could say that I think you're a fucking asshole, you're a cult member. I could say I think Christianity is complete bullshit, and they're like, that's okay. I still love you, and I hope the best for you. And does whatever you say to them, they don't mind. They still love you. You know, and it's like if you remember in the Bible when Jesus was being put on the cross. You know, he actually, one of his last things he said was, Father, forgive the Romans. You know, he was talking about the Romans, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. He was being crucified on the cross when he didn't do anything wrong. And he prayed for them that they be forgiven. Like, that's love. That's unconditional love. And that was what LRH was talking about with greatness. That's greatness.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And the thing is, I didn't see that in the church.
Yeah.
And that's what made me leave. Because I'm like, that is what makes life. Like, that is what gives life meaning. That is what gives life flavor. That's what gives life color, is that love, that unconditional love. That is what gives power and gives meaning to life, I believe.
And also, I mean, it's just good business practices. Like, this is how you should treat your public. Because I found it, with my like handyman business, right?
Mm.
If I have that element of love there, like the actual care, right, of just wanting to do a good job and stuff, that becomes exchange in abundance, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's great. You know what I mean?
That's great.
Like
It's
good for business. It's
but
really
you're coming
good for
from a
business.
mode of goodness. Like,
Yeah.
You're not coming from a mode of exploitation or you're just coming from a mode of actual goodness. And people, see, it doesn't matter how dumb or how unintelligent or how much little data you have. If you show love to someone, that you can feel that no matter what. Like that transcends everything.
This is how I view it, right? Because I've seen a lot of evidence, right? I have a very I feel like I know that the Earth is pretty damn bad. So I look at it as like an absolute shithole, right?
Mm.
But the thing is, there's something you can do about it. You know what I mean? And so if you're going to do a job, you're going to at least try and contribute to it and try and fix up this thing. And you're not trying to rip someone off and earn a few extra bucks. No matter what, unless you become some super duper rich corporate dude or some shit, you're pretty damn poor. So, like, we're all poor. So it's just like you might as well just do something good and actually contribute something good and try and start solving the problems. And if we all just did more good, then things would really start picking up.
Well, I genuinely believe that the world, like, you see, that's what a lot of times, like, Scientology say that the world's a fuck place and all that shit place. Like, I have a different feeling. Like, I know, when I watch a lot of Alex Jones and I watch a lot of kind of conspiracy stuff, yeah, I kind of had that feeling where the world's a fucked place. And that's why I didn't like it, because I feel like it's a really depressing way to look at the world. Because if you look at the world, like, I feel like if you actually just kind of...
It is depressing.
No, but I feel like if you actually like, go out there yourself, don't look at the info wars and don't look at the media, don't look at... Just go out there in the world yourself. And I think it's such a liberating experience. Like, you know, when you're talking about, you know, when LRH is talking about your own data, like seeing what your own reality.
Yeah, what's true is what's true for you. Yeah.
And what I feel like when you actually go out in the world and you walk around and you admire the beauty in the world and you admire people, you look at people, I feel like the world's actually a really beautiful place. I feel like the world's an incredible place. And people are incredible. I feel like people are genuinely good. There's a lot of things that have fucked up people, but I feel like the world is an amazing place.
Yeah, well, the majority is damn good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, anyway, but, I mean, it's just...
And I feel like when you come from that, you can actually love people. Like, when you think, oh, everyone's fucked, it's kind of hard to love people, but when you appreciate the beauty
I don't know, though, because I can still love them if I think they're fucked.
Of course, and that's where unconditional love's come from. But I think like it makes it easier to come from a mode of love when you see the good in people. Like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. When you see people that fuck, you should be able to love them either way.
Yeah.
But for me, like, obviously, I'm not capable of unconditional love. I'm not there yet. That's where I want to be. I want to be able to love someone no matter what, whether they're punching me in the face or whether they're, you know, or whatever. But I'm not there yet. But it's easier for me to see and love people when I can admire the beauty of the world. You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. You obviously love a lot.
Well, no, but this is what Scientology did for me, because before I went to Scientology, I thought it was all. I thought when people talk about love and all that stuff, I thought it was all going, oh, fucking hippie shit. You know, I had that kind of thing. I just remind, you know, I think of some guy with a peace sign, Confess, you know, one of those combi vans and all that stuff. You know, I just kind of thought of that kind of pretty cliche, corny stuff. You know, but for me, Scientology made me appreciate love more than I ever have, which is why I don't regret being in Scientology whatsoever. It's changed my life. In the fact that the lack of love in Scientology highlighted its importance to me. Because I was thinking to myself, when I was here, I'm like, this is amazing. This data is amazing. I feel more capable than I've ever felt. I feel like I can do and understand the world more than I ever felt. Why am I still not happy? Why do I feel like something's missing? You know, what is it? And only then did the kind of light bulb flick in my head, and I'm like, this all makes sense. What is, you know, why people still feel a little empty? Why people seem in the org a little fake? Did you notice that when you have the staff meetings, they're so enthusiastic, they're like, yeah, we're the fastest growing religion in the world. We're gonna clear that. Like, it's kind of like an act. Like, it's kind of like a bit of a facade. Like, they don't. I feel like they all want to believe it, but they don't. It's a bit contrived, because. But lacking a bit of substance. I feel like that's because they don't have that love in there, you know.
Well, it's lacking evidence because they're just not doing it.
Because they're not doing it.
I mean? Like, it's definitely. I remember it was kind of strange when I'd see like staff members like really get involved in like an event or something and be like real excited about doing the event, and it'd just be like, you're putting in all this effort into the event. How about you just actually go to the corner there of a universe and actually hand flyers out and try and save a being? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Actually,
you could walk past a little version of me and say, "Hey, dude, have this information here. Do you know that you can make shit happen with your mind? Do you know that there's a reactive mind that exists, like a bad part of your mind? Do you know spirituality exists? And the kid will be like, wow, I didn't know there was this whole element to life. I was just going to grow up to be a freaking slave to corporations.
Well, to be honest, yeah, I mean that's exactly right. I think the staff have become more obsessed with their numbers and events and actual kind of, and like flashiness, and
they're more into the flashiness, like
an actual substance.
Yeah, like
an actual substance of helping people.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's just it's interesting.
And they're because they've been convinced. I think they've been convinced that flashiness is
how to get people in.
Is how to get people in it.
Yeah,
and so that's what I was saying. People's goodwill is being exploited and manipulated. Because I think people genuinely believe that, so that's what they're doing. Like the staff aren't bad people thinking, oh, we care about Flash. Like, they think they're going to help people. They want to help people.
They're pretty cool. In
like, they're really cool people. Like, genuinely, that's what kept me in Scientology for a while. I'm like, these guys are cool people.
They're pretty funky.
Like, they're funky people. They're good people. They love people.
Yeah.
But the thing is they're misguided. They're misguided, which makes them feel a little... I feel like there's something... This is why, for me, when I walk in and I see Scientologists, I'm like, yeah, you guys are really cool people, and I love you guys, but there's something a bit off. Like, do you notice that sometimes when you talk to Scientologists, there's just something not quite there?
The whole thing has become messed up. Like, even if you look at the way the tech is, like, it's damn powerful, and if it's done wrong and if it's squirreled, then it can, and it's done without love, it can actually kind of send people insane. Like, I'm not kidding. And there's evidence. I don't know if you came across any. I don't want to talk about it. It's bad PR to talk about it, but that is the truth of it. There are some people who are church members who have actually kind of gone insane because they've received like bad OT levels and this sort of stuff. And,
like those quickie grades, kind of like.
Well, they get things like that, and then they get up to the OT levels, and they're not ready for it, and then they actually kind of go insane. Like, I know for sure, and people who've been long-term sires know that these people exist. So it's like the whole movement's sort of been dirtied. And it's just like, it doesn't mean that Scientology is a load of crap like what Chris Shelton says. It's absolutely not. It's just that it's gotten out of hand. Things went not quite right. And the reason why I decided to leave the church, because I couldn't see the future of Scientology being in the church. I saw it as being just a whole new thing needs to get started. The church doesn't need to be attacked or anything. Just a whole new thing needs to get started, and that's how we can get the tech out there.
Well, it's from a basis of love. Like, that's what I think. Like,
yeah.
The thing is like, why? Like, you look at Christianity, for example. Like, it didn't, like, you look at how it started. Like, it started with, obviously Jesus, but he came from his like, that's the foundation of Christianity. That's where it started. That's where you dig down to. Like, that's where the roots are. That had a root of love. So there's a lot of fucked up shit that's happened with Christianity over the time. Spanish Inquisition, the KKK being a Christian thing, but they're not real Christians. I mean, you break down Christianity into the two teachings. Jesus' first and foremost commandment, and the second word: love thy God with all your heart, all your mind, all your spirit, and love thy neighbor as you love yourself. If your actions don't follow to both of those things, they're not a Christian act. That's what really got me. Some people will say, "Oh, look at what Christians done! Oh my God, look at these wars that started." Are you loving your neighbor as you love yourself? Is that action making you love your neighbor as you love yourself? No, that's not Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not Christian. See, the good thing is that they have good fundamentals. The fundamental of love is there, which is why it's so powerful. Which is why all this messed up stuff can happen with Christian churches. With Catholicism doing really messed up stuff, and it's still really powerful, and it's still the most powerful religion today because love is so powerful. And it kind of transcends that. People can feel it. It doesn't matter. People can still feel the love when you go to a church. Especially
speaking of this topic, especially if you're a woman. Women, I feel that they've got more this love thing you're talking about. Because I noticed it when I got involved with another spiritual group. There was a lot of women involved, and they tend to be a bit more psychic, and they do tend to be attracted to more of these love things.
Yeah.
So they just hone in on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More than men.
Right.
Men can get more tunnel vision, more like, I'm going there, I want to do this, and I have this goal, and I want to achieve it. And that's a very manly sort of thing.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, but I feel like on that, I feel like, this is, obviously I might get called sex or something like that. I do feel like, because of that kind of emotional, the real super emotional thing, it kind of tends to be like, I notice more women can get a bit more fanatical than men sometimes.
With religion.
With religion.
Yeah, with religion.
Yeah.
Well, if you look in the churches, I'm pretty sure there's more women volunteers than men. It attracts more women, these sort of spiritual things, and all the spiritual things I've done, even yoga. I remember I did a yoga class the other day, and I was like the only dude there, and I was like, "Come on, guys, why can't more guys be into this sort of shit?" You know what I mean? But anyway,
I just think I mean, I don't really want to get into. I personally can't really get into that because I don't really. The whole gender thing, like I don't really know. I feel like we both, as just human beings, want love, and it transcends. I mean, that's why there's mercy on the battlefield.
Yeah.
You know, if love wasn't the powerful thing, like I'm saying it is, we wouldn't have mercy on the battlefield.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't have the Geneva Convention. We wouldn't have all these different types of things that are things love. We wouldn't have. You know, we wouldn't have this thing where it doesn't matter how much you're told that a person's a terrible person, you know, you show mercy to that person. That's our innate thing. You know, maybe we express it differently than women. Like maybe men express it differently than women. I think we still have it equally as much. You know, and maybe it takes us a bit more time.
Well, hold on a second. It depends, because if we're spiritual beings that have gone to a body, right, and then we're changed by the DNA of that body, right?
Yeah.
But, and this is what Scientology is trying to work towards, and I guess all spiritual practices, you want to get to a condition where you're no longer, you become your spirit. You don't become the DNA of your body. You don't traumatize the DNA. That's why these really high spiritual people don't trying to stay away from sex and food and all these sorts of things. So they're these things that the body's hooked on and shit, and it's just like, it's a whole DNA thing, and it's just they're coming out of that, and they're becoming these spiritual things that are like, I'm just a spirit, man. Screw this whole body thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, some people are like that. Some people are like that. I mean, I know some people that I know are absolutely amazing spiritual beings. Like, they are so amazing on their spiritual plane, and they're married, and they have kids. They have a family.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that, but you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of philosophers.
I think it was kind of like, you know, those kind of guys. It's like, you know, people that live in caves and do that kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't really respect them as much. I feel like they've gone like, yeah, that's their thing, that's their gig. But I feel like, to me, when I look at it, I'm like, that's not really what God planned. Like, for me, God created us to have a sex drive. God created us to have family. You know, we wouldn't have that. Because God created man.
Did he create that control system?
Which control system?
Well, having the sex drive and being in the body and having to make a family and all these sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would have put it us. He wouldn't have put it into our DNA if he didn't mean it to happen. Yeah, obviously the reason why, you know, the reason why we have these drives, like the 8 dynamics, is that we have that dynamic. Denying that dynamic is just not being you.
Yeah.
Like trying to go only 8th dynamic or only 7th dynamic is not healthy, I don't think.
But I think the whole idea of Scientology and other spiritual practices, because they believe in other practices as well, that we are sort of spirits that are like trapped in a body. Other ones believe that as well. Anyway, it's really interesting.
You know, actually, I just had a thought as we were talking about that, because you know how we were talking about some people just going to go screw the world, I'm just a spirit man, you know, kind of like live in their cave. I don't think that's actually, like, to me, I don't think that's a really high existence. Like, to me, because, like, you know, because I'm coming from a very Christian angle here, so I'm going to be kind of quoting them.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus, you know, if you look at compassion, like, I think the highest spiritual plane is like a Mother Teresa. Someone who's there in the world helping people, showing compassion to people, showing love, because I think that's the highest. Because if you're in the cave doing your own thing, that's kind of selfish. You're not really showing much care for people. You're just doing your own thing. You know, you're not actually making the world a better place. I think the strongest. I think the strongest existence is being you and being loving and showing compassion. Because otherwise, you know, and loving people and, you know, doing kind of what like Jesus did. You know, Jesus went out there and he was talking. He was part of the world. You know, he wasn't just isolating himself from the world. He was part of the world.
I don't know. It's so hard to work out the data on it. At least with what's good about Hubbard is the fact that, you know, we were so close to when he was alive. We can get actual words from him and stuff, but the only thing that's hard with Jesus and stuff, because I'm trying to work out the truth of Jesus and stuff, is trying to get the real goodies. You know, it was 2,000 years ago. It's so hard.
I understand where you're swinging from. But
anyway, I think I view it from the point of view of that we are all naturally were gods, right? And that we are...
Obviously
we have been crippled.
We don't have that. I don't have that reality beyond that.
So we've been crippled and been put into bodies, and so we are stuck in this matrix sort of system.
So do you have that kind of like that? Because I know a lot of people have that I am Goddess philosophy. You know, kind of like we don't realize. You know, like
well. Firstly, I respect God. I even pray to God and stuff. Like I'm damn funky. You know what I mean? Like, but it's because I know that I feel like there's something more, and I can get benefit from it as well, right? Right. But that doesn't mean I don't feel like innately I'm a god, or I was a god one day, and I've become full.
Well, do you believe in a supreme being, a being that transcends all? Like,
I believe that there's higher thetans.
But how about one particular being that's that transcends everything?
Maybe, but I believe that we could all get to a condition where we don't need a body and we are out of the control system and we're free.
Right. So like separate from like God or something like that. Like I get what you're saying. It's a bit to me.
And that's what. I'm sorry. Where do you think Jesus is right now? For example, he's off in spirit land, right? Or he's doing something. Well, I feel like we can achieve that as well.
To me, I think he's with God.
Yeah, well, I feel like we can achieve that as well. That's what my beliefs are.
Well, that's the goal of Christianity, is to become back to God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's to be God. It's to love God, because I think we're all spiritual beings. Like, and this is what I learned in Hinduism. It's like, yeah, we're all spirit souls, but He's the supreme soul. You know, so when the goal is to become one with the supreme soul, not to be the supreme soul, to be separate from the supreme soul, do our own thing. To be one with this, like to be not become the supreme soul, but to be in a loving relationship with the supreme soul.
Well, I think maybe we can achieve that, and also you can just do whatever you want. So if you do want to go start up your own game somewhere else, you can go start up your own thing.
Yeah, and this is where Hinduism comes. Like this is a bit different than Christianity. Christianity kind of it's a similar concept, it's slightly different. Like what Hinduism, I was raised. There's so many. The thing is with Hinduism, most people don't realize is that. What Hinduism, my dad told me this, was that when, it's just where, when the British came into India, they're like, okay, every religion west of this river are called Hindus. So, like, one Hindu is not the same as another Hindu, they're completely different games, so, but I'll just say, the version that I was growing up, it's, the reason why we're here as souls is because, in the beginning, we were one with God, we were one with the Supreme Soul, and then we said, no, we want to have our own game. We want to be happy. We think we can be happy without you. So I was like, okay, go ahead. Do your thing. I'm not going to keep you. If you don't want to be with me, I'm not going to keep you. So we've gone out to the world trying to be happy, trying to be our own people, trying to be our own gods, trying to be our own thing. And we no longer have that connection with the Supreme Soul, because we're like, no, we're going to do our own thing. We can be happy without you. And then really we can't. Like, and that's kind of the part of the journey, is to realize that whether it's a body or a supreme, like as a soul, we have to realize that we can't be happy without God. So we have to try. Our goal is to be like, give up on our attempt to try to be happy on our own power and volition, and actually be like, oh God, I want to be back with you. Like, I don't want to play that game anymore. I want to go back to the, I don't want to try to play my. And then this is a bit of a high philosophical.
Yeah, it's hard trying to find out the truth. It's really wild out there. Like, for example, my grandpa passed away last night, right? And guess what I was doing the very moment that he passed away?
Thinking about him.
I was meditating. No, sorry, I was like praying for him. Okay. But see, it's just like, what the F?
Well, that's
I found out. I got a phone call half an hour later, right? And I was told the time that he passed away, and I was like, oh, great. Of course, that's when I was sitting there with my gems like this, praying like this, wishing him well and that sort of stuff, and I was saying, I think the Lord's Prayer as well. I mean, it could have been when I was lying down on the floor, doing my sort of TR. I do this TR0. Like, I call it TR0 because I don't do it a mantra. I don't believe in saying a mantra or whatever.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Well, I feel it's a bit hard, or it's messing with your mind. But I think just lying on the floor with gems and with like nice peaceful music, it just keys you out. You become like higher energy and spiritual. And
you're a bit of a squirrel yourself.
Well, if I open up a Scientology center, I would never do that in the Scientology center,
right?
Because I would do Scientology because I'm a Scientologist.
Got it.
And you do standard tech, you do KSW. I'm serious, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean in my free time I can't do yoga and shit.
Yeah,
I mean, LRH never said you can't do yoga. You know what I mean? Church members don't understand. They don't understand. They don't understand LRH.
There's life out there. There's world.
I know, but they don't interpret his writing. Anyway, so it's like, okay, there's so much more going on in life. Of course, he passes away the exact moment I'm freaking more doing the thing last night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? These coincidences happen all the time.
I mean, on a very less level, like, with my friend Reg, I'll be thinking about him, like, oh, crap, I'll be in the middle of talking about him or about to call him in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just as about to press the call button, I got to call him.
And it's just
interesting.
I know, exactly. It's just like, hey, Chris Shelton and you Scientology haters and you people who are atheists, stop and actually open up your eyes and listen to these stories people are saying, all right? My story is true. His one's true. I've seen synchronicities happen probably every day, these weird coincidences. We don't know what the truth is, what reality is, but at least people with religions and spirituality are trying to find out the truth. And these atheists are just saying, it's all the physical universe, there's nothing else, God doesn't exist, and all this sort of stuff. And it's just a load of shit. It's just
the
a load
problem
of
is,
crap.
like, I mean, I have this with my most of my family is atheists. Like, my uncles are really devout atheists, and like my dad's the black sheep of the family because he was they believed in God.
Mm.
Yeah, so when I post about God and stuff like that, they get really not so about the God not existing, or the Bible being a disgusting, vile piece of hate speech, and I'm just like, most people get angry and go, stop, what are you doing? You're oppressing religion. But really, I think again, you kind of gotta. It's really about loving your enemies, and it's really hard. Like for me, it's hard to do. I'm preaching it. I'm not going to say I completely perfectly practice what I preach, but it's about going back to like, look, there's something. There's obviously some sort of thing that's causing them. There's a blockage there. There's a charge there that's hurt them in the past, and you can't hate them and get angry with them. Because what's getting angry with an atheist going to really do? It's just going to make them. It's just going to fuel their fire even more.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to love them.
You got to somehow,
because love breaks through that.
Yes, exactly. Love gets rid of charge.
And you see that's why I get really angry with Scientologists when they get all aggressive and passive aggressive or disconnect from you when you don't agree with it. Because it's just like for me, when I initially left the org, I'm like, you know what? I might come back. Right now I want to go and keep discovering. If I don't find something, I'll come back. But the way they treated me when I left,
I know, it makes you not want to go back.
I'm like, I'm not coming back. Yeah, you guys obviously, you guys showing your true faces. I'm not doing it,
Yeah, they burn through it.
And the thing is, that's not love. If they showed me love, you know what? If they actually showed me love, I probably would have actually decided to stay.
It's a lot to do with stat pushing. See, if there was no stat pushing going on, they would start operating their way they naturally are, which is, of course, probably loving and caring.
Loving, again, that's who they are.
The upline stat pushing really forces people to not be OT, and it forces them to be like physical OT, which doesn't exist, which can't be done, because in the physical universe, I'm going to make this happen with force. I'm going to make there be 10,000 staff. I'm going to make you donate all this money. I'm going to be, I'm going to be OT. I'm being like, this is what the Sea Org is. We're OT. The Sea Org is cause. We're OT, and it's just like, no, you're like this fake physical universe OT that's using force.
You're trying to convince yourself that you're working, but it's not
actual there. OT is not having to do all this crap in the physical universe. It's just having faith and having confidence and using the postulates and stuff, and it just becomes. You know what I mean? And you don't have to force it. There's no forcing going on with being OT, but they have to force it. We're in a Sea Org, everyone's OT in the Sea Org, and they're just like, you mean everyone's just this hardcore nutcase worky person? You know what I mean? It's just like it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Puts people off.
The thing is, look at it. Look at those people. Are they coming from an actual thing of empathy, compassion, and love?
No, they're not. They've got some goal, whatever it is, to sign up for a course, and they're going, we're making this happen.
And is it motivated by love, or is their motivation by kind of pride, ego, and stuff like that? You got to look at their motivation.
I don't even know if there's even pride or ego there. All I know is that they have, whatever they have, we're going to sign up people for stuff. We're going to reg this thing. We're going to get this operation with Way to Happiness books happening. And it's just force. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And the thing is, I think it's fuel, like the reason why they're so thing is because they do believe they're helping humanity by doing it. They do believe that. So there's they have their goodwill behind it. So that's why they get the kind of the drive to do it. But it's but then the way they're convinced because they believe. And this is something I had a problem when I was doing the personal ethics and integrity course, is they kind of have the thing where they kind of believe that right and wrong is a relative thing. You need to do the greatest, number of things, and that can justify a small. You need to have a small destruction for construction, And I get what they're saying, but I also think that they kind of twist it to be like, well, I'm going to disconnect from you, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to reg this guy for $1 million, or something like that. Because I'm saving the world. They're kind of going back, I'm kind of repeating myself again. Yeah. But then, see, their idea that they're showing love for the planet, and this is something that I really, has actually caused them to not show love. Like, in a way, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, because they think they're operating from love, it's actually causing them to not operate from love. And which is what I feel like. I feel like it's a really sick game, Scientology, that's really sad. Like, it's really sad because these people are actually living in a loveless thing. Like, they're living in a world that's devoid of love because they're forced to devoid of love, and they've been manipulated and their minds have been fucked with so much to where they are incapable of understanding what love is. And which is why I feel like Scientologists, when I see them, they seem so empty. And they seem so lack of substance. They seem like they, compared to a real, like, because I've seen real Christians, when I went to Hillsong Church, it was so funny, because it's just like, because I'm now part of Hillsong Church.
You squirrel.
I'm part of Hillsong Church now, and I tell you what, it was a fucking massive contrast when I go from Scientology to Hillsong.
Yeah, it's more peaceful. Yeah.
People just have a shine in their eyes. People are genuinely happy. They're not trying to look. they talked. Hillsong Church is one of the fastest growing churches in Australia, and it was such a comparison because they've been around for less time than Scientology's been around, and they have to rent out this. They have three campuses in Melbourne, and the city campus they have to rent out. They rent out this big theater that can house 1,000 people. And I tell you what, when I got there, I was fighting for a seat.
Yeah.
I was fighting for a seat.
Yeah.
Like I literally, they had to direct people, and they were having to be like some people having to stand. It's so jam packed. Like it's so fast going. And you know what? You know how much they talked about money? They talked about money for like they were doing this really like big like launching event. Like they were launching this massive thing called the Hillsong Foundation, where they're actually doing this massive charity event. And you know how long they talk about money? They talked about money for maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
They don't normally talk about money that long. They're like, we don't normally talk about money this long, but we're just, we're raising this charity. We want to let you guys to know about this. So if you do want to, do your tithing, you do want to do like, this is what we're doing. If you don't want to donate, that's cool. They're coming from such a mode of like, what, this is what we're doing. If you want to help out, help us out. We're trying to do good. But they're not trying to manipulate you. They're not trying to pull some fucking game on you or some regging cycle on you to get $1 million out of you. They're just like, hey, we believe, and they'll come up and be like, we do believe that generosity will make you happy. They'll come up with a Bible verse saying, they will say, generosity, because I do believe generosity is what makes you happy. Giving is part of having, like if you give, you get, So they are saying like, look, we do believe that, if you give, it will come back to you and it will actually help you out. But hey, they're not trying to push you. And it's just such a comparison because these people have love. These people are not trying to push, they're not trying to have a game. And you know what? You know how much more successful they are?
Yeah, I know.
They are so much more successful than Scientology.
Well, I did a course recently with the Avatar group, right? And it was started by a SIO, a guy who sort of used to be a SIO. Again, does that make Andy a squirrel? I think it's just Andy wants to try everything spiritually and become a fucking expert, okay? I want to become OG no matter what.
Why would it make you
that doesn't mean I'm not going to be doing the bridge at Ronsorg, for example. I'm going to be doing an independent Scientology bridge because I'm already up to grade 4. I'm going to go all the way up. I'm still a SIO, but it's just like, hey, I like trying yoga. I like trying other things because I learn, and it handles another different part of the case.
You're doing what is true for you. You're
exactly.
You're living your own personal integrity.
But also, I don't do things that I feel are damaging my mind. Of course, if I'm doing things that are bad, then I wouldn't do them. You know what I mean? Like, as in, I use common sense in it. But the church members are kind of like, oh, you can't try anything else. Oh, no. Anyway, so I did the Avatar thing, and there were some moments where they were mentioning a course they were sort of selling and stuff. Like, they mentioned it a few times, and I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. They want us to do the next course or whatever. And the other guy that was there was like, whoa, they're trying to, like, brainwash us into doing, like, another course and stuff. And he was really thrown off, and I was just thinking, whoa, you should try Scientology. Man, if you've got a problem with this group, you are going to die with Scientology because it's so hardcore Scientology.
They are so
they're like, man, you do this course and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but speaking of that whole attitude, I think Hubbard's ideas are hard for people to assimilate. Like, as in, because the ideas are unusual, because it's like, yeah, go get it, you go do it, you make it happen no matter what, but don't take it seriously at the same time. People can't... That's what Hubbard says. I struggle with that one a little. Yeah, exactly. That's what Hubbard says. People can't handle that, and it is a hard idea, and I apply it in my life, because it is kind of weird. Because
it's like a game. I see it as life's a game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, as in, I want to make this posture happen, but I'm going to work hard at it, but at the same time, I'm not going to take it seriously. But what happens with the church is they go, I'm going to make this game to get the stats up, and I'm going to make it damn well happen, and I'm serious about it. And it's just like, hold on a second, calm down.
And that's what I'm saying. But with a game, like, the way I saw like, the way I kind of dealt with it, I was like, I saw Scientology as a game. I'm having a game right now. And it's not a game you're meant to enjoy.
Yeah, they need to see it more like that, and they need to understand the whole don't take things serious idea.
Yeah, like, you still, like, a game, you want to win a game. Like, you win, like...
Yeah, but don't take it seriously.
The thing is, if I lose a game of Monopoly, I might be a little bit, oh, fuck, I lost that game. But, it's just a game. Yeah. Like, you take it seriously while you're doing it.
Yeah, but don't take it too seriously. Whereas a church, they're taking it too seriously, and it puts people off.
And it puts people off. Because the thing is, and, like, look, I wouldn't say Christianity takes like themselves as the game, but they don't, like... The thing is, they're not pushy. They believe that God's love. They believe that love will work its own magic. They have enough confidence in the thing, like, hey, we're just trying to do our thing, and if you like it, you can stick around, you can hang around, because that we have enough confidence in our own thing that it will work in magic on you. And it does. And you tell you what? You look at Hillsong Church, and you look at Scientology. Hillsong Church is skyrocketing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Scientology says it's skyrocketing, but you go to an org, it's empty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You go to Hillsong Church, you're fighting for a seat. And they run, put it this way, they run 5 services a day on Sunday. 1,000 people, right, in one campus, right? 1,000 people in massive theater and all that. Every single time you go there, it is jam packed. You go fight for a seat, and so that's 5,000 people every Sunday at one of the 3 campuses.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I mean, but like back in the 60s and 70s when Scientology wasn't really serious, it was popular. You know what I mean? Because the whole serious thing just puts people off. And I think they've been running now the church for a pretty long amount of time. And I think they've, especially with the ideologue thing, because it's failed, they tried really hard. We're going to clear the planet. We're going to put these massive buildings in. We're going to force this thing to happen. We're going to make it happen. Blah, blah, blah. Instead of letting the orgs naturally grow and stuff, we're building these massive buildings. We're forcing Scientology down to people's throat. We're forcing 100 people to sign up for staff. And you know what? Across the board, it has failed.
It causes resistance.
So I think
it just causes a lot of resistance.
I think a lot of church members, and I think, I don't know, the collective mind or something, I think that they've reached that point where they've realised, okay, we've got to stop taking the game seriously. We've got to stop doing these ridiculous things like pissing people off in reg cycles. And we've got to actually start just selling Scientology and having fun and caring about people, and we'll actually get people in the door.
I think it's when you have fun, and that was actually got really into it, because when I first joined, it felt like fun. I was having fun. And then it lost it because I realised, I began to understand something's missing here. Something's not quite here, because those people aren't fulfilled. I see Scientologists. I don't see the highest level Scientologists. Like, I see the ED. I see Yi, who's an OT7. They just don't.
Well, stop. Well, just think about this though. When you think about the ED, for example, just think of how much time they've spent doing admin stuff, working for the church, as opposed to advancing their knowledge or spirituality.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, and I see it with people. They come along, especially I guess it's people who have a big heart. They come in and they get gobbled up by the church. It just gobbles them up and says, yes, volunteer heaps. And they go into it because they're like, yes, I'll help heaps. And it just gobbles them up. And then from there on out, they're just stuck volunteering for years and years and years. And then they just get everything zapped out of them. Their money, their effort, all this sort of stuff. Right. And at the end, they're not really spiritually advanced. And because the church is run by bad people, I think, at the top, they never really get people. They never really get people clear. You know what I mean?
Course.
Like, yeah.
And you know what got me? Like, just for a comparison point, because I just left Scientology. I was volunteering 38 hours a week and stuff like that. And I go to Hillsong. And I want to volunteer. I want to be part of it. And I'm like, I go for my first service. And I'm like, God, I went and like, guys, I want to volunteer. And they're like, that's great. And I'm just like, hold on a sec. Like, probably should just take it slowly. Just learn a bit about it. Experience it a bit. Get to know people a bit more. Figure out. They literally said, calm down. They're just like, slow down. Like they're not saying go away. They're like, yeah, we'd love to have you on, but just get to know it a bit more. Get to know some people. They're like, well, here's some youth groups. Get to know some people personally. Get to see if this is actually your thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, what a contrast point. Because I tell you what, if I walk in the Church of Scientology and says,
I
want to volunteer, they'd fucking flip back on their chair and be like, oh my gosh,
and they gobble
you up.
Yeah.
But it's just going to show where their attitude is. Like they have, the Hillsong has this attitude where it's just like, they genuinely want you to be happy, and they're not trying, and they have the right way of doing it. Like, John Anderson does want you to be happy. Like, the people at the staff want you to be happy, but they have the wrong attitude. They're so forceful, they're so trying to push, and they lose sight of what it actually is about. I feel like Hillsong doesn't lose sight of what they're about. And that's why they're so effective, because people haven't lost sight of what it's about. It's about having that connection with God, which gives you that fulfillment in your 8th dynamic and your 7th dynamic, and you feel happy and lively again, like the world has meaning again. And you stay there because you're like, oh my gosh, because people haven't lost sight of it. People, they don't lose sight of what's important, which is their relationship with God. Scientology lose sight of what is important because they're so obsessed with stats and their policy and their admin.
And they're so obsessed with their own postulates, and because they've got, a lot of them want to become like a successful businessman or something else, and they get so caught up in that dream, and they become self-deluded in that dream, when it's just like, I think it's, I don't know, if you really believe you're going to become a success, let's say in business or something, then I think you should be okay with looking at some stats that might indicate your business is not going good.
Exactly.
Because you really believe it. But anyway, I mean, but like, for example, there's higher level data, I think, in Scientology about goals, problems, mass, right? GPMs, right? I think it's something you sort of deal with on the OT levels. But I think when I was a church member, I didn't know about any of this data because I think it's an OT level data.
Oh, is
but yeah, but it's really good to know because it's just like if the staff members knew this, they would realize that their goals are like too strong. It's causing a problem to happen, and then suddenly they get mass and they get keyed in. So for years they stay on staff and they don't get much spiritual advancement because they're having too many goals and they're striving too much, and it's creating problems and mass, and just keeps them keyed in for years. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, it's not a matter of not having goals, but it's just a matter of just like, whoa, watch out. You literally create your own reactive mind. You're adding to it by having these hardcore goals, but they don't know this data. They don't know about goals, problem, mass. You know what I mean?
I gotcha.
And even if
I've never heard that. I've never heard that mentioned.
I know, but it's interesting. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. It's like what you resist persists or whatever. It's just like being too hardcore in your goals, and you see it when you're around the org because you realize you're working with a dude who's got like. Who's probably, let's say he's on staff, right, and he's got a stat that he's trying to, like, really achieve, right, and then he's got a daytime job where he's probably really trying to make heaps of money so he can afford to do his bridge, and then he's probably got some other ones, right, and so he's just going along, like, and then, like, not really getting anywhere, and you know what I mean, and it's just like, and so then... You know, he's dealing with someone like a new public like you, and it's just like he's never really getting anywhere because he's keying himself in.
Yeah, he gets frustrated by it.
You know what I mean? I don't think people know that they can key themselves in by dreaming too big. And I realised this, I think, on grade 4, in that for years I've been working hardcore at things thinking, you know, work hard and you'll get success. And it's just like, hold on a second. Maybe working hard is keying you in and doing the opposite.
That's actually really true because I've always been a very ambitious person. Especially when I was in Neg, when I rooted out, when you talk to Reg, I just was like, because I ended up putting my self value and my self worth on success. So when I was a banker, you know, for someone who came out of high school at 17 years old and working as a bank teller, I mean that's pretty damn good. You know, most people have been making $30 an hour. You know, for someone, you know, I was pretty good, but that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted more, and I wanted more, and I was never satisfied, you know? And I feel like that's because you put you push yourself, and you get angry, and I ended up getting angry with myself, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you get angry with yourself, and you feel bad, so then you think, I've got to work harder in order to feel even better when I get success or something. Yeah, and it has this weird spiral.
It has this weird spiral, because then when you think like, oh, you know, then when you kind of get told, look, maybe I need to chill out, then you feel like, oh, you're not being productive.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm running into that now because I'm not working at the moment. I'm still looking for a job in Melbourne at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm looking for work. I'm like, I kind of run myself into the ground because even though I'm really trying with my spiritual life at the moment, getting that on track, I feel like I'm being a lazy person and I'm not being productive. I could be doing more. And then, but that thought in itself, oh, I need to do more. I could be doing more. It kind of makes me miserable. And I'm like, that's a weird kind of, it's a weird thing. You know, you kind of push yourself to, you have these high expectations of yourself, and high expectations are good. I really do believe, like, you don't have standards for yourself, then you won't achieve anything. But I feel like also, like, you kind of got to put the right weight on the standards. Like, you don't want to have it where, like, if you have no standards, then you could just kind of like, you don't have any drive to push yourself. And I do believe pushing yourself is important.
Yeah.
You know, push yourself to improve, push yourself to get better. I think that's one of the things that makes men and gives satisfaction, pushing yourself to improve. But I think that also kind of doing it too much, I'm not sure if you, I mean, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this, but, you know, too much, then you kind of actually hate yourself in a way. I don't know where the happy medium is, you know, I mean...
Yeah, you got to have a balance too, because you're not enjoying it. If you're pushing yourself too much, then suddenly it's like, well... Hold on a second.
You lose sight.
The whole point is that you enjoy it. The whole point you enjoy the ride.
And that's a bit like what Scientology does. Like,
it makes you like drive for spirituality, so you don't enjoy it.
And then you lose sight of what actually it's about. Like, you know, when I'm pushing, like, when I push myself too hard, I'm like, oh, I've got to be, you know, oh, I should be running my own business. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I get really angry.
And also they're thinking, I should be OT3 by now, and it's just like, hold on, enjoy the level you're at.
Yeah, and then and then even, you know, back to, like, you know, something more relatable to people. It's like when you drive yourself too hard, you kind of lose sight, like, oh, wait, I should be actually just enjoying life. That's the purpose. We want to be happy. You know, and if you're pushing yourself so hard to where you're actually you're working so hard, to where you're sacrificing happiness.
Yeah,
And that's what a lot of people do in life. And that's what I felt like why I quit like working at the bank. It's just because what people will do is they'll sacrifice their own happiness.
Yeah, for money or success.
And success and stuff, because they've been told that that's what they need to achieve, not to be happy. And what I'm thinking, and that's why people are depressed and miserable, and because they got themselves into these big things, and they want more. But they lose sight of, hey, people kind of replace, people think money or something or sex or something like that is the be all and end all, and then they end up when they don't really realize that, hey, why do you want money? Oh, so I can buy things. Why do you want to buy? Why do you want to buy this, Lamborghini or something like that? Oh, because it makes me happy. See, happiness is what people are after. People don't really. I feel like a lot of people haven't quite keyed that in properly. You can
achieve happiness without material stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think your drive should only be, I was just thinking about it now with the happy medium. Your drive should only be driving you to the point to where you achieve maximum happiness. It's a bit like a graph,
It's like
be to the point of maximum happiness. And if you go too far, then you've gone too far.
Yeah.
And
or if you go too little, you're just doing nothing.
Then you're not actually achieving maximum happiness. It needs to be like this point of maximum happiness.
Yeah.
As you get more money, as you do more things from your hard work, then you achieve a certain level of happiness.
Yeah.
And once you've reached that, then that's where you need to be at. And then you focus, and then you just enjoy.
Yeah,
but then when you push yourself to, I need more money, or I need more sex, or I need more something, then all of a sudden, you've already reached your maximum point, you're pushing yourself too far, and then actually you're burning yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
You're working too hard.
And then you're feeling shit, and then if you do get successful, it's just like, well...
You're not getting happiness.
So what? You get success...
It's not success.
Exactly.
People think success, it's not success, it's failure, because you're failing to be happy.
Yeah, so let's say you get some business success, and it's like, oh, great, for 2 years you're the CEO or whatever, but then for 2 years before that, you were shit. You were having a shit, unhappy time, and it's just like... In the end, do you really win?
And then when you're the CEO, are you really that happy? Are you really living your life that you want to be living?
Exactly. So that's providing that. With my example, that's saying that you actually do enjoy being the CEO. But what happens if you actually don't enjoy being the CEO? Then you have 2 years of working hard, and that was shit. And then 2 years of being a CEO, and that's shit. And then everything's just shit.
I mean, maybe... Look, I don't disagree with the idea of self-sac. Sometimes you need to grind, You need to be a bit of a grinder.
Yeah, but if it's a fun thing and it's done short-term and it's done in a way that you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously someone could say, using the argument we were saying, it's like, oh, well, I just should smoke weed and just chill out because that's what makes me happy. Oh, I should just do that. But no, it's not that, because... You haven't reached your maximum happiness point.
Yeah, that might make you a little bit happy, but there's other levels of happiness.
But the thing is that there's so much more that
that's what's cool about Scientology. Is you become aware of that there's more going on, and there's things that you don't even know. There's ways you can feel that you don't even know that you can feel. And there's ways that you feel right now that you're not even aware. There's ways you feel right now that you're not even aware you feel like. Like, for example, years ago, I had a lot of anxiety. I wasn't even aware of it. You know what I mean? All I knew was that something wasn't quite right. And then when you come out of it, you're like, whoa, I was like that? So that's some weed smoker who's like, man, I don't need to do any of this. I can just smoke weed and feel good all the time. It's just like, dude, if you try this shit and then you feel amazing, right, then you'll be like, whoa, I felt really shit when I was smoking weed.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And what I noticed in Scientology, I used to smoke weed a bit and, go out partying a little bit when I was in the bank and stuff like that because it was a bit of an escape. But after Scientology, I've had just... It's not that I've even made a conscious decision that I'm going to give up on alcohol and drugs. I've never really made that conscious decision. I've just never had the desire to go.
Yes,
it's weird. I've never even told myself, oh, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
It's just that I've never actually had the urge to do it anymore.
Yeah, because people usually have an urge, whether it's their food addiction or sex addiction or drug addiction. Usually it's because they feel shit. Or they have nothing more interesting to do. So they're trying to fill in their emptiness and they're feeling shitness, right?
Yeah.
But if someone's playing a fun game and they're cool, they can cure their cigarette addiction like that. They can cure their drug addiction because they're doing something else that's more interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it comes resistance. When I was in Scientology, I was going on such an emotional it was such a roller coaster ride for me because there was ups and downs. Oh, I hate Scientology, I'm going to leave, this is a fucking crazy cult. Oh, I love it, this is so great, I've had knowledge I never knew, I felt feeling ways I never knew how to feel. It's like, I don't need drugs for this. This is more powerful than any drug I've ever had, you know? Because, you know, you're on such an emotional roll, ups and downs and highs and lows, but it's better because, you know, you just don't have to, and now I'm out. Just don't have the urge. I don't, like, there's obviously other bad habits that I have that I still have the urge to because there's resistance there. And that's where you struggle to give up an addiction or something like that. It's because you have this resistance. You have this resistance, I'm going to force myself to, you know, not look at porn, or I'm going to force myself to not, you know, be on drugs.
Force is no good, I think.
Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere because you have resistance and you're fighting yourself.
Yeah.
But what I notice is what I really, you know, with alcohol and weed, I've never really been addicted to them, I would say. I had them, you know, because I just was bored. But I never, you know, there was no resistance. I just didn't think about it.
Exactly, yeah, because you're not feeling shit. But as soon as you get keyed in, right, because people don't know the spiritual technology, right, so they're keyed in general, and they need to take these things to make them feel better. But if they knew that, you know, you can do things to help your mental health, right, and your spiritual health, you can just feel fine, and you're like, I don't need to do those other things. But there's something really interesting that happened, for example, with this whole driving thing, right? I noticed with me, sometimes I'll go to do something like, let's say I want to do something, all right, and then I'll run into problems, right? And then you have that thing where I'm going to put in effort, I'm going to make this happen. Or
So you got to force it,
But since I've been coming in more in the condition of being cool with whatever the universe gives me, right? So I'll go to do something and then it won't happen. Then I'll be like, well, the universe didn't want it to happen. Maybe it was better off not happening that way. And so then I find out that it actually was a good thing that didn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
That's happened. There's a Bible verse about it. It's like God has a plan for your life, and He has a good plan, and there's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
You know, this is one of the sermons that, like, God has, you know, when you give up your life to God, and you actually stop trying to fight what God wants, you know, and you just go like, all right, God, what do you want from me? You know, He has your best interest at heart, and you're going to have a faith in that. You know, you got to be like, okay, He has a plan for you. It's like, I have a plan for you, and it's a good plan. It's one with happiness, and, you know, you know, fulfillment. You just got to trust. You know, got to trust what happens. It's going to be ups and downs. The thing is what people...
So
ups and downs.
So you have this goal, right? And it doesn't happen, right? And you're like, okay, I'm cool with it. And then something else opens up and you're like, oh, fantastic, great. That's exactly what I wanted. But in the past, you'll be like, I'm making this bloody happen, blah, blah, blah. And this is what the church members are like, right? Because they're like, we're making this happen, blah, blah, blah. And they fight and they just key themselves in.
Resistant,
and then
you get angry.
And then maybe they do pull off that posture. Maybe they do manage to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
But there's all this crap associated with it.
Yeah.
Whereas the more peaceful way and the more OT way, I feel like, it's cooler, and it happens.
I mean, like, I think, like, you know, obviously you got to put in a bit of grind. You know, you got to put in hard work. But the thing is, you got to do it to the point that you feel like you've done your bit. And if that doesn't work out, like, you got to do it. You've given it your best.
Like, you stand up on the batter's plate. Like, you go there to try and actually.
Yeah, you genuinely
give it a go.
You're not like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna go with the flow. Oh, I'm gonna sit. Because some people would take that as like, oh man, you go with the flow, universe will happen. Oh, I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah, it's not that. No, you actually try and go up to the batter's plate and hit the ball, but if you missed it 2 times, it's over, man. It's not going to happen.
You give it your best swing. You give life your best. Yeah. You give something your best swing, and hey, if it doesn't work, next game. It's not your game. Next game.
One thing that I noticed that was also connected with that same thing that was really, really interesting was that. So I know about the reactive mind, right? So sometimes I'll go and do something and I'd feel keyed in and I'd feel like, and I'd think, this is just my bank. I'm going to.
Do you want to explain what the reactive mind is? Because I'm going to be sharing it with some people that probably don't know much about Scientology.
It's like a bad part of your mind, right? So let's say somebody is shy, right? It's because of their reactive mind. They've got like this bad part of their mind that's making them feel shy.
Yeah.
Right? So, or it makes somebody be addicted to drugs because they feel bad, or be addicted with washing their hands every 2 seconds, and it's basically the cause of mental illness, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I would say, all right, I've got this postulate, I've got this goal, the law of attraction, whatever.
What's postulate mean again? Sorry,
it's just a goal, really. It's something you plan.
So it's something you want to have.
Yeah, something you want to make happen, right?
Yeah.
It's like I postulate that the weather's going to be. I postulate that the weather's going to be good tomorrow.
So you want the weather to be good tomorrow. Yeah.
Or you postulate you're going to go shopping or whatever.
Yeah. So that, right? So you say you have a goal.
And so let's say I have the postulate. I mean, this isn't really true because I'm not that passionate about shopping, but let's say I have the postulate to go shopping tomorrow, right? So then I go shopping, but I start feeling nervous, right? And I go, oh, it's my bank, okay? It's my reactive mind.
Bank is another word for reactive mind.
Bank. It's my bank coming in, right? So I'll be like, oh, I'm going to ignore that reactive mind or whatever, right? But then it turns out that I have problems. I run into problems while I'm shopping, and I notice this pattern in my life that sometimes these negative emotions I feel are actually a warning sign from God or something, right?
Something, yeah.
Something warning sign saying, no, actually don't do that. It's actually a warning sign, right? And so what I'm saying is sometimes you can have bank phenomena that I actually suspect isn't bank phenomena. It's like a spiritual
the voice of God.
warning sign.
Or
I don't know what it is.
I call it the Lord in your heart. Or intuition, some people
Yeah,
say.
some sort of intuition or something, right? And so, but it's just really interesting because I'll be thinking, why the hell do I feel nervous? Damn, I wish I was clear. Like, why can't I just be like a perfect person, not feel bad? But it's just like, hold on a second. Actually, that feeling was actually a good warning sign that I've got. It's like some inbuilt mechanism. Sometimes you go to do things, you don't actually realize it's not that good for you to do, and you have this trigger inside you that makes you feel nervous. Like, for example, with stand-up comedy, I was doing it for a little bit, right? I was sort of trying it out and stuff, but every time I went to do it, right, I know it's a stressful thing to go on stage, right?
Oh, it would be, yeah.
But I'd always feel stressful, and I'd sort of be like, hasn't this gone away? Haven't I handled this with my TRs? Haven't I handled this with enough auditing? Why am I feeling bad in this area?
Maybe it's just not your game.
Right?
Not your game.
Yeah, well, it was a warning sign, right? And because I've looked more into the stand-up comedy industry and just... there's a lot of low-tone people in there, and I don't believe it has a big future or anything. And I love
stand-up comedy. I
don't mean to put it down. Like, give it a go and try it. But personally,
like Kevin Hart, I think he's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, he's sort of funny. That's what's up. But I'm saying, as an industry in general, it popped up in the '80s and it was like this cool thing and stuff. And I just feel like it's going down, and it's not the way of the future. There's other things, and also the people who are involved, I feel a lot of the time are low-tone people who are complaining and stuff. And the whole vibe of it,
they're normally coming from a very negative place, like always like
they're complaining and they're making their jokes, and they're
really making feel like it's kind of like laughing at it's like like a laughing depression.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And so
you said with like Robin Williams. Like Robin Williams is hilarious, but he ended up killing himself.
Yeah. A lot of the stand-ups, right? Because it's amazing. I couldn't believe it, right? And I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the famous and the totally not famous ones you don't even know, right? So many of them have mental health problems. So many. Anyway, so
do you think like Kevin Hart? Do you think he has like mental problems or something like that? Do you know Kevin Hart?
Yeah, I know him. I know of him.
Oh yeah,
I don't really know.
Have you watched his stand-up?
Not really.
Oh, it's brilliant.
But anyway, but what I'm saying is, I couldn't believe how many of them were low tone. How many of them had mental health problems. I was like, whoa. Wow. Like. I was just like, wow, it's almost like if someone's got some sort of case problems, they're just like, I want to do stand-up and talk about it on stage. But
well, it's really sharing your own laundry. Like, you have to have something bad to happen.
Yeah, but anyway, it basically, I feel like it's a low-tone industry and it's attracted all these low-tone people because there's other low-tone jobs where they seem to attract, like uptone things attract uptone things and low-tone things attract low-tone things. Anyway.
And that's funny because you know the guy, who was that really, really popular stand-up comedian like back in the old days. It turns out he was like actually like raped a whole bunch of women or something like that.
Oh, the black guy, Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby, it's just funny. Like, even the people that you think are kind of uptone, like he was like a bit of a family-friendly kind of guy. It's funny that you say that because you think about it, you see a lot of these things.
There's heaps of them are like alcoholics or drug addicts, or or they've had a long-term mental health problems like anxiety or depression.
Or if they seem kind of clean, they're like Bill Cosby and doing.
Yeah, or they're like desperate for attention and love from the crowd, so they get into stand-up comedy. So I'm not going to bag stand-up comedy because I love it, and like Jerry Seinfeld's awesome and all this sort of stuff. Right. But anyway, so me, whenever I want to go do it and try it and go into that direction, I'll get these bad feelings, right? And now that I've noticed in other areas of my life, it's literally some sort of inbuilt thing in me that when I start going into an area, I get these bad feelings and it's like this thing saying, bad, don't go there. And it's like it's guiding me.
Right.
I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's God or something.
Obviously, in Christianity, they would say that's the Holy Spirit or the Lord.
Yeah, and it's guiding me. And like, I don't know, I can't have my intuition just talk to me or God just talk to me, right? But I can get these negative emotions, and it's almost like God's watching me and going, look, just keep on giving him more negative emotions, right? And then eventually he'll just say, I'm not going to try stand up, I'm going to give it up because it's bad. And you know what? It worked because I just stopped doing it. And I was just like, no, I'm not putting up with this shit. You know what I mean? It's just bad. But it's there's so much more going on in life.
There is.
I'm not making this sort of shit up. Like, I'm serious. I'll go into, like, for example, I remember there was someone who I wanted to go to a footy game with, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I felt these bad vibes. I felt the same things as stand-up. I felt like something's not right about this, blah, 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 blah. And then it turns out that he came up with some crappy excuse not to go to the footy game, and it was just the fact that I don't think he wanted to, I don't know why, he didn't want to go with me or something, right? But my intuition was right. There was something not quite right with that whole going to the footy game thing.
Right.
And so, but I had the goal, go to the footy game, right? And of course, I didn't fight it at all because at this stage, I realised you shouldn't fight for your postulates. And also, I realised maybe this bad feeling means something. And then, of course, it does prove out to be true. He either didn't want to go with me or there was something wrong there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool because it's like, hey,
it is
talk
cool.
about psychic abilities, man. This is
really
great.
Cool.
Like, for example, with this interview with you, if I had these bad feelings come up and stir up and stuff, I would think, okay, well, I'll continue with this postulate, but if he pulls out, then it's actually going to be a good thing because I'm having these bad feelings for a reason. You know what I mean?
Understood.
Anyway,
yeah.
But that didn't happen. But anyway, it's interesting, man. It is
so
interesting.
I mean, I have that all the time too. Like, I think that's just something people do. Like, you know, when people have like, you know, like so many times something bad's happened, and I'm like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Like, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. I still did it. But I'm like, I knew it was going to happen. Like, you know, for instance, like, you know, even when I got into like a relationship with one of my ex-girlfriends, you know, like before I went into the relationship, I had a feeling that this isn't going to end well. I ignored it.
Do you sort of feel scared, or you feel like something's not good?
You know, I just knew it wasn't going to end well. I could just see like, this probably I'm going to try to have fun with it because I was desperate and I was really insecure at the time. You know, so I'm like, you know what, she's really hot. I'm going to be with her anyway. She was so hot. Oh my god, this girl's like, you know, and you know, I'm going to put up with it. You know, and then 8 months later, it ended up completely shattering my heart. Like, it was one of the most gruesome experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
And I knew the whole time, I knew it was not going to work out. And I knew that I should have cut it off. I kept going, but I kept not listening to it, you know. And it's funny, like, I think there's so much power because there's a difference between, like, there's a difference between giving up and just being lazy. Like, you know, I think, like, you know, so there's a bit of resistance, you just stop doing something. Like, that. I don't think with that. Yeah. But I think you got to learn. It's a balance. You got to learn to know. I don't even think it's a balance. I think it's a different feeling. Like, you got to feel like, if you got to learn to listen to your voice, you know, your intuition, your Lord in your heart, because and not you'd be like, you know, because from the way we're describing it, it could kind of almost seem like you're saying, oh, if something's too hard, don't do it. It's not what I don't think that's what we're saying. We're saying that if something feels wrong in your heart, you know, if something feels like actually wrong, then there's something.
But sometimes I think, particularly if you haven't done a lot of auditing or spiritual practices to raise up your energy, that it can be your reactive mind.
Right.
That's throwing something up that you need to handle and deal with. Okay. So this is where it's like it's a fine line in deciding whether or not, you know, it's intuition or if it's actually just you're keyed in.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I would disagree with that because, like, I know what, like, this is just my opinion. Like, I know what the reactive mind. Like, I feel like I can kind of like tell. Not on the spot, but in hindsight, I can kind of tell the difference between what was my reactive mind and what was my intuition.
Well, that's cool that you got that ability. That's great. I want to get to that. I don't think I can do that.
Because I think what it is just like, because I feel like a lot of the time, like, we know we should be doing something, but we don't do it. Like, we know we should be doing it. Like, for me, like, there's some times where I'm like, yeah, I know I should walk in, you know, when I'm looking for a job, I'm like, yeah, I know I should go into here and ask the manager, give my resume, but I just didn't have the courage to do it. That's my reactive mind because I have my nervousness. That's my nervousness. That's not because, I have a bad feeling about that place.
Yeah. So
it's because I'm nervous, and something's holding me back, and I'm nervous.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. I can tell. Like, I know I should be doing it, but I'm not letting myself do it. And you see, that's what I was trying to explain. Like, my friend was trying to figure out what clear was, and I was like thinking what clear was. Is the ability. I think clear, from my understanding of clear. I'm nowhere near clear, but my understanding of it is that I think it's the ability to follow your intuition and not have that shit hold you back. You know, not have that shit in your way that's actually, you know, stopping you. You know, like, I feel like, you know, it's the ability of knowing, like, because I feel like there's so many times that we know we should be doing something, but we're not doing it. Like, I know I should probably go to the gym, but I'm not doing it. You know, or I know I shouldn't have this candy bar, but I kind of want it. I think that desire to want it is kind of like a bit of like probably your reactive mind or something, you know. Or when you know you should, you should leave this girl, but you have this attachment. You also like this. You know you should do it. I think that's the difference. Like when you know in your heart you should be doing something, but then you have these things that are kind of stopping you mentally from doing something. I think that's your bank, when you kind of feel like it's a head thing, like, oh, my insecurity stopped me from doing this, or people often say, oh, you feel insecure, or you feel nervous, or you feel kind of like that. I think that's your reactive mind. That's your bank. When you kind of feel like it's your head kind of messing up. Oh, I'm getting nervous, or I don't want to do it. I don't feel confident. It shouldn't be that. Like if it's your heart, your intuition, it shouldn't be like, oh, I feel too nervous to do it. It's just like, no, this doesn't feel right to me. And there's power, because see how that's coming from a position of power. Like if you don't want to do stand-up comedy, like that's like, I don't think this industry is a good industry. I don't like it. It's not my game. It's a messed up industry. That's a position of power. You're saying it's not because of a lack of self. It's not because of lack of self. It's because you don't like it. Not you.
What's interesting though is when I started working on the comedy TV show, I would go to interview someone and I would have the same feelings where I'd feel nervous and all this stuff. But of course, I'll just ignore it and fight through it because I'll go, oh, that's bank, right?
Right.
But now it's kind of like, now that I'm not nervous with interviewing people or whatever, it's kind of like, if those feelings come in, it's like, oh, hold on a second. I don't really think this is bank because I've handled that problem in me. I don't have that bank part in me that makes me nervous or whatever anymore. This might actually be some sort of warning sign. So I don't know. I feel maybe it is as you come up the bridge and as you become more close to clear, then you can open yourself up more to your intuition because you've got other
I think we always have our intuition. I think like that's something that matters.
Yeah, no, it's always there, but it's like clouded by other shit that's in your mind. But as you go up and you raise up more, then you clear the other shit out of your mind so you can notice the intuition that's always been there.
But I'm almost with you on that one. From my opinion, I think it's not that you don't know it's your intuition. I think it's just your ability to follow your intuition is easier. I think like so many times, because you know what I'm talking about. Like before, like you kind of gotten more. Back when you didn't really know about much stuff. Do you ever had it when like you should have done something, but you just didn't do it? You know what I'm talking about? Like you just know you should.
It's pretty bad, but like it probably would have happened. Yeah. But I believe we all have intuition.
I think no, but it's not like just having intuition, but your ability to. I think as you become clear,
you can
your
follow
ability to follow your intuition.
Yeah.
I think everyone always say. I think there's. I honestly think that the people, even the most unbridged people, can discern between what the heart is saying and what the bank is saying. But their ability to actually follow their heart is so limited by their bank. The bank stopping them from following their heart. They know they should have done something. And I don't think it's like as you go to clear, you understand what's right and wrong more. I think it's just your ability to do what's right is better.
Yeah, that's another way to handle someone's ethics is you just send them up the bridge as opposed to sending them into ethics. You keep them going up the bridge and they just improve and they become more happy and they stop doing low-tone things.
Exactly.
Their ethic levels come up. Anyway, they tend to be pretty strict with the whole HCO and the church and stuff. But
apparently, if you're PTS, you can't do any training. That's in the ethics book.
Yeah, well, the problem with when you're involved with the church is everyone's PTS to the church. Nearly everyone.
Oh, yeah, I think the church is suppressive.
Exactly. So unless you've got like some sort of cruisy life and you've got some really great little posts with some great people that are around you, which not many people would be in that situation, but some would be. It seems like, the majority of people who are involved with the church are PDS to the church.
Yeah.
So that's why Scientology never works. That's why you walk around and you see these OT5s and they're not really acting like an OT should be acting, and it's just because they're PDS to the church.
Yeah, what PTS means, it means that it stands for potential trouble source, and potential trouble source pretty much means that you're a victim of a suppressive person or entity. Suppressive pretty much, means that they're holding you down, they don't want what's best for you, or they're not quite doing something right. So pretty much, if someone's holding you down or doing negative in your life, they're a suppressive person, and then when you're a victim to that, that means that your life is being your potential trouble source because your life is being affected.
Yeah, you're being squashed and made smaller
by a suppressive person. I just wanted to make sure because I'm going to be sharing this to other people. I don't want people that's going, what the hell they're talking about.
So for example, with the OT5 thing, instead of OT5 being this glaring big spiritual being, he's being suppressed for years. So he's achieved on paperwork, he's achieved the level OT5, but really spiritually he's down here.
And hold on,
can I say something as well? The rule with PTSness is that while you're PTS, you can't spiritually advanced, right?
Because
so you can spend as much time as you want going into session and doing all these things, but you'll never get ahead. That's why people can spend years and years doing Scientology, never get ahead, then leaves the church and say, Scientology was shit, I never got any benefit, it doesn't work. And it's just like, well, yeah, of course it didn't work because you're PTS the whole time you're doing it.
Yeah, you're being suppressed the whole time.
Yeah. It's never
and what OT means, for people that don't know, it means operating Thetan. Thetan is the Scientology term for what most people know as a soul, so the spiritual being. So, you know, Scientology doesn't believe that we're the body. They believe that the soul, what most people know as the soul, or us, you know, actually what makes us is just the body is just a vehicle for the Thetan, or the soul. You know, think soul. So operating Thetan with OT means that you're learning to actually realize your power as a spiritual being, not as a body, but as like a spiritual being. So you're actually doing stuff that transcends your body.
Like Jesus, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, I mean, I'm not sure about that, but
you know what I mean? Like, as in, Jesus could do, he was much more spiritual and much more OT than the average person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So basically, when Scientologists refer to being OT or trying to make everyone OT or whatever,
it means transcending your body.
Trying to become great and like Jesus and stuff.
Operating in the spiritual realm. That's pretty much what I think OT means. Operating outside the material realm and being in the spiritual realm. You know, just people that don't really have much.
So actually, hold on. OT stands for operating Thetan, and Thetan is a spirit. Okay, so it's operating spirit, right? Because you have to understand, this is what Scientology sort of does. Is you're going along, right, and unless you've gotten into spirituality or religions or whatever, you might actually. You haven't done anything to become operating, basically, but you are still a spirit. So you're just a spirit going along. It's not operating.
But you're not actually operating yourself.
And then this is what happens when people get into Scientology and when they get the spark and the initial they like it, because they're going along not operating as a spirit, not even aware that they're a spirit, and then suddenly they start operating as a spirit and they go, whoa, there's this whole
what's going on here?
There's this whole realm of existence that I wasn't aware of. Wow, this is exciting. What the hell is going on in this world? And they start doing interesting things like maybe slightly predicting the future or having these weird synchronicities happen or just feeling happy. You know what I mean? And so it's, it's just getting you more operating as a spirit. But
what I felt like Hubbard did was he found a way to make technology out of spirituality. And I think it's a genius thing in a way, because he found a way to kind of prove to people that spirituality does exist in a way to themselves. Like, once you do it, it works every single time.
Yeah, and what's good as well is you do it, and then you have faith when you do other spiritual practices, because you're like, no, these people aren't kooky land or whatever. Like, these people, I know spirituality exists. I did it in Scientology, so let's just give this other thing a try. And then you give the other thing a genuine try, and you find out, wow, this thing works as well. Whereas if I just had come off the street and done the other thing in the first place, I would have said, this is too kooky. I'm not going to pray to like Allah or something like that. This is just too much.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I really feel like me being a Scientologist for a month or so allowed me to be a Christian so much more.
Yeah, I experienced that as well. Yeah,
like honestly, I feel like my faith is so much stronger because of Scientology.
Yeah, I can understand. Like, hold on, Jesus was an OT. I was like, now I get what Jesus was. You know. Oh, you might disagree, but that's what I think of it as.
But yeah, it's one way to look at it. You know, obviously, I think I believe in divinity, so I do believe that there's I think he was a supreme soul, you know, like.
But maybe the whole OT idea is to become the supreme soul.
Yeah, I mean, I think that well, from my growing up, I think that the desire for us to not see, people sometimes talk about be like God, and there's two ways you can look at it. You could talk about be like God as like have the power and be all powerful, or be like God as in be loving. You know, I think when people say be like God, like in the genuine sense, I think people should be like God in the fact that have His ability to love and care, but don't try to be all powerful. Like, I think our desire to be all powerful and be our own source, be our own source, you know, be self-dependent, is why we're here, is why we're not actually with God. It's because we have that desire to, no, I don't need you, I'll do it on my own.
Yeah, too egomaniac and egomaniac, you know, like a God and shit.
Being, I don't need you, God. I can be happy on my own. And that's why God's like, okay, go ahead. He's not like angry. He's just like, okay, I love you. Go ahead, and if that's what you want, I'm not going to hold you here against your will.
Yeah,
you know, but that's my opinion. I don't think that being God is what we should do. Is we should be one with God. Like, be like, hey, God, I've been in this world, and look, it's a cool world, but it's not satisfying me. You know, I want to be back with you, where the satisfaction's at. You know, I think I really do believe the idea of kind of like I am Godism is really dangerous because of that belief. That I think that the reason why we're all here in this world and not actually, you know, and we're in this cycle of birth and death, and we're kind of in this bit of this material world, you know, is because we've had this desire to be like God, be God, rather than actually be with God. You know? That's why I kind of tense up when you talk about that. Because to me, I think that's really dangerous. You know, because I think it sounds like a cool idea, but I think that it could really misguide people. That's my opinion. You know.
Well, one thing I feel interesting about is that I think that I've always felt deep down that maybe this whole God thing is just us. Like, the voice you're hearing is actually you.
Potentially.
Like, God itself is you. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that we all have within it. It's a deep person within us. I don't know, but anyway, it's gone off topic.
It's a different angle to look at it.
Yeah. So, how's the Ideal Org in Melbourne gone? I heard they made lots of clears recently.
They've been doing a lot of clears, but the thing is,
like something like how many was like 37 this year? Is it 37 this year?
Oh, something. It's
a big amount. I mean, since because
in scale, I mean, you're 37 clear. I mean, 37. I don't really.
I know, but you don't understand. See, with GAT1, right, which was a big screwing of a tech, it was very, very bad, right?
Yeah.
You understand? They were making like one clear a year,
right,
or one every 2 years. Like, it was so bad, right? I mean, it was crazy. And then GAT2 was a real big fix-up, right? So they're rolling out a lot of clears and that sort of stuff. Now, I don't know if these clears are really legit, because I think I go by the 1975 bridge, where everyone had to do the clearing course and had to do the real thorough way. I like that sound, okay, of bridge. I think that seems pretty safe. And I think Ron Zoll goes with that sort of bridge, and Ray Robles goes with that as well. But anyway, so even if these... Anyway, it's a good thing that they're making these numbers of clears. Anyway.
Just letting you guys know, org, for people that don't know, it stands for organization, which is kind of like...
Church.
A church.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for people that don't know. So when we're saying Ron's org, it means just Ron's church.
And quickly, speaking of that, when people get into Scientology, usually they haven't really been involved with other religions, right?
Yeah.
So they don't realise how much of a religion it is. Like, this is what I realised when I came out of it. I was like, wow, that really was like a religion and a church and stuff. I could really see. And I looked up Mormonism and Seventh-day Adventists and all this sort of stuff, and I was like, it made me believe that Scientology was much more of a religion. Like, I did think that, yeah, the church is a bit of a... I didn't think the church was a bit of a cult, right? I was like, yeah, but... It for me, it was like, that ticks so many of the boxes of being a religion. But when I was involved with it, because I had no life experience with these other things, I was like, nah, Scientology is something new. Yeah, we call it a religion, but it's like, it's something else. You know, it's not really a church or whatever. It's totally different. And I was like, nah, I reckon this really is like...
That's actually funny that you said that, because I completely come from a different angle. I don't think it's a religion at all.
This is how funny Scientology is. It's just like, it's just so trippy.
Being in there, I'm like, to me, because you know how I was talking about actual fulfillment and love and that tone, what I call the tone 40, what me and Reg decided is tone 42, you know, is that kind of unconditional love.
I know what you mean.
You know, it's the thing about it is it can't be described. It's a bit of an elusive that you have to kind of feel. You can't describe it. It's a feeling. It's that kind of, the best way I can is je sais quoi. Like, it's just the meaning of life, the undercurrent of all life and existence, you know. I really think is that unconditional love, you know.
Yeah.
The thing that makes your eyes kind of sparkle and you kind of just, it makes you excited, you know, and when you even think about it. It's so powerful in that aspect. Like, I feel like Scientology lacks that. And I feel like to be a real, like, a true religion, I feel like, you know, you have to have that unconditional love. And that's why I really believe that, like, it can't be, you cannot put it, because I've...
Sorry, also, you can substitute the word love for care. There's something about the word care, because I noticed that there's a difference, but I just feel like if someone cares, then there's love there.
There is...
Because I don't know, because I'm not really...
Care is a symptom of love, I think.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't feel like I'm obsessed with love, but...
You can tell that I am.
But, care, though, I feel like I've always been a caring thing, and when I was a staff member, I was a caring staff member.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't treat the public like shit.
Right.
By the way, sorry, there's a cat
There's
in
a
the
cat
room.
there. There's a
I
few
totally
bells.
did. I didn't know the cat's been here all this time. So it's really funny. This freaking cat is in here because it was sleeping the whole time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No. Anyway, that,
Anyway,
that's
so what
what
we're
the
saying
bells
is, so how's the dialogue going? Is it?
Oh, yeah, we're going-
hold on, is
keep
it
going
Saint,
off topic.
is it Saint Hill size? Is it booming?
Well, they're from what I've picked up, they think they're going to be St. Hill size, next year. But,
Yeah, see, there's nothing wrong with having a goal to be
But from
St.
what I've
Hill
heard,
size.
they want to be St. Hill size next year.
Yeah, there's nothing
Like the
wrong
last
with
40
trying to be
years.
St. Hill size. When you say, we're doing it next year by this date, that guarantees it's not going to happen. So if they, yeah, exactly. Like,
To be honest, it kind of goes, to me, now when I go to the ideologue, I see it as a sad place. It feels, I feel bad for them.
wow, you just feel sorry for them.
I feel sorry for them.
They're trapped volunteering and
I
stuff.
just feel like they're all trapped. To me, you go there, and after kind of having the experience and really kind of experiencing it, and then also kind of going to someone like Hillsong, someone that actually shows love and has that kind of thing. To me, I see it as a bit of a sad existence.
Oh yeah, especially. I mean, it must be different with the whole quietness of it. Like you go to Hillsong, and then you're like, you walk into the quietness of the org, and you're like, whoa.
Well, there's nothing wrong with quietness, because if you go to like...
Well, sorry, as in the ghost townness, as in like no one's here. You know what I mean?
No one's here. Yeah, you go there, and they're so like... To me, what makes it so sad is you go there, and they're so enthusiastic, but not like... It's a weird type of enthusiasm. I feel like it's kind of like... They're like... To me, I go there... This is going to be really offensive, but I see it as a bit of like a nut house when you go there, because it's like... They're all so stuck in this kind of thing where they're in this kind of thing like where
I think it's just postural. I think it's just we're postulating, we're making this happen, we're ignoring.
Well, they're all stuck
the
in their own
evidence.
delusions.
Yeah, yeah.
You go there, they're all stuck in their own
the delusion of the postulate of clearing the planet and having the best religion. Yeah.
And the thing is, I see it. These people, they don't have they don't have love in their life. They don't have things. When I see them, I go to the org. People don't really have time to actually talk to each other. Have you noticed that? Like, there's never actually like
there's too much hurry.
Communication. This is something that blows me out, and this is why I think like every other religion I've been to, people talk. It's like not like when you go to the org, they're either regging you.
Yeah, exactly. They want you.
They're
Yeah,
regging
exactly.
you.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's never just like, hey, you're a human being. I'm a human being.
Yeah,
Let's have a talk.
exactly,
It's either an auditing, like if they want to talk, like, oh, have an auditing session, or you're going to be regging something, or send me a comm, or something like that. It's never just like, hey, how's life going?
Yeah.
How's life going? What's up? What's new in your life? How are you feeling? How's the family?
It's a stat pushing idea. Yeah. It's
There's a
crazy.
stat pushing idea. It's never actually like there's never actually like an interpersonal connection. So I feel like all these people are actually like I go there. It's a bit of a lonely place.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's so not lonely, and you really have to kind of look deeper than like the on face value, because on face value it's a really fun, exciting place that's full of vibrance and life. People there are so lively and able and are getting stuff done when you look at it on face value. But you dig a little deeper, and those people, they seem so lonely because they don't have. No one actually kind of cares about each other. No one actually like. No one actually. Everyone's too busy in their own world and in their own hat. In their own hat.
Postulate and goal.
And hat and postulate and stat. To where they're never actually taking enough time to care about one another.
Yeah.
If you go to like a normal church service, like a church service in like a Christian church, something like that, there's literally allocated time where you just say, during the service, it's where you go, you take 2 minutes and you actually just say hi to the person next to you. Peace be with you. What's up? We're a social church. Get to know the person around you. Meet someone new. That's such a but there's none of that in Scientology. None of just have a conversation, figure out what's up in life. The only time you can really talk about yourself or what's going on in life is in an auditing session. That's not really a real thing. That's one person's wearing a hat. You're wearing the PC hat. They're wearing the auditing hat. You're never wearing your.
See, and this is where it's probably more cool in the independent field with the auditing, is that the auditor can actually be there as a person and actually talk to the thingo. But when in church, the auditor's like worried about all these rules and getting in trouble and all this sort of stuff. So they're more of a robotic auditor. The auditor beingness.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Being a person.
Actually, I thought of the best way to describe it. You go to Melbourne org or just any other org. No one's wearing their own hat. Like everyone's wearing their PPO hat or their auditing hat. Because they're all. But no one's wearing the hat of, hey, I'm Jai, or hey, my name's so and so. Like, they're never wearing their hat of themselves. If that makes sense, what I'm saying, you know? Like, they never have their hat off, you know? They never have a conversation with both hats off and beingness, you know? Which is why it's such a lonely existence. Where people, on the face value, they're not lonely because they're spending more time, they're always with someone, they're spending more time with people than ever, you know? Because they're there almost like crazy hours, you know? They're never really like by themselves. But deep down, it feels like a really lonely place.
Well, one of the last times I was in the Melbourne org, and when I understood how the movement had gotten corrupted and now was just dead quiet because of being taken over by an SP and stuff. I could see the quietness, and I was looking around.
SP means suppressive person.
Yeah, evil person. Just a bad guy, basically. David Miscavige.
Who's the head of Scientology, the whole world of Scientology?
So I could see the quietness of it, and I could see in the people's faces, I agree, I could see this sort of sadness. I was like, this is just sad. Like, these people are just like, there's that guy there who's been struggling trying to sell a book tonight on the street in some crappy stress testing thing, and he's sad and bored, and there's not many people around, and there's this person struggling trying to get their stat up, and I could just see sadness.
But they won't admit to being sad. They're all convincing themselves that happy
it's
as all
the
hell.
postulate thing. It's really interesting. I think that's how.
So they never live in reality. They're never actually honest about, hey, I'm sad. So the thing is, it's a really multi-layered thing, and that's why you have to look a bit deeper. Because at face value, they all seem so happy, but deep down, they just seem so sad.
This is what's interesting, right? Because if you look at the Sea Org, right, it's so similar to the book 1984, where it's like this big control system. Right? Anyway, and 1984 has the same thing in that they're making this communist utopia, right?
Yeah.
And so they've got the postulate, they've got the goal. They're going, this is our goal, blah blah blah. And Winston's sitting there going. Whoa, you're really deluded, but they changed the truth. And, like, why is everyone so insane and deluded and stuff, right? And it's just like, the reason why that happens is because people get obsessed with a postulate and they go, we're ignoring any bad information, we're just tunnel vision, good information, I'm applying the secret, I'm applying postulate, I'm not having any counter intention, I'm ignoring the evidence around me, and just everything's perfect, we're clearing the planet, it's great, Scientology's awesome, we're making a great planet.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's such a sad thing because not only they're so caught up in their cult persona, their facade, their cult personality, to where they forget who they are themselves. I feel like.
Well, yeah, it's just becoming obsessed with your postulate.
I feel like, and this is why it's so sad. I feel like Scientology slowly makes you lose your own identity, which is why, and I see OT7s.
You become a church member, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they're able robots. I feel like a lot of people are becoming able, like they're freaking capable of doing pretty amazing things. But they're robots.
Yeah, church member robots.
And it's so sad because people lose their own identity. They lose, and this is why it's so sad for them because that would be so hard for people to confront, to think the last 20 years of their life or the last 10 years of life has been a lie. So that's why they get so aggressive when people doubt. Because they have this hive, I feel like they have a hive mind. They all contribute to their own delusion, you know, they all contribute to their own thing. They have a hive mind, so when someone wants to cut out, when someone wants out, they're losing part of their hive mind, and they're like,
no,
what's going on? What's going on? No, and they get so angry because they can't challenge their hive mind.
Yeah.
Because maybe they'll have to face something. Hey, maybe they're living a lie. Maybe they've lost their own identity, and that's such a challenging reality for them to accept, that they will do anything not to accept that reality.
And also, it's like, hey,
and that's why I was saying it's so sad. I genuinely, when I go there, I don't feel like I can be capable of being angry at them. I'm just like, guys.
They're getting.
How can I help you guys? Because honestly, I feel so sorry.
And they're getting shortchanged. It's just like, I mean, I don't want to talk about the bad side of the church, but as in, yeah, they're getting shortchanged. It's just like, hey, do you know that like the church is like RTC has actually like changed the tech and like messed things around and like it's just funny because it's just like, hey, I mean, if you really look at Hubbard's stuff and he talks about how corrupt the world really is, do you think that his church couldn't get corrupted? You know what I mean? Like it's the way things end up turning out in church. But when you're a church member, you're in that whole delusion. You're like, no, the church must be perfect. It's the only good thing in the world. And it's just like, no, like, look at the evidence. Of course the church will get infiltrated. It's just like infiltrating a government or anything.
Well, the thing is like, yeah, the thing is I feel like slowly, like, when you first joined Scientology, the honeymoon phases you were saying, the world seems light again. But then I feel like you stay there a bit longer, the world gets darker again.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's when the church starts exercising more and more control on you and you have less and less freedoms.
Yeah, because what I noticed is like, when I was in the church, I cut out everything else. Like, when I originally went to Melbourne, I wanted to go to seminars. There were so many events going on. I wanted to be involved in the arts, the culture.
And then it all just becomes about the church.
And it all becomes about the church.
Yeah.
And you begin to, you lose interest in the world around you. And what I found when I left, I felt like free in a way. I'm like, oh, wow, there's a lot of cool stuff in the world.
There's awesome stuff,
There's a lot of awesome stuff. There's a lot of beauty in this world. This is really exciting.
Mm.
And I feel like people are lacking that. I feel like people in the church, I see it as a really sad existence because I'm like, man, like this is, like, almost puts me to tears. Because I see these people, they're good people, but I feel like they've lost. They're lost souls.
I didn't even try and tell church members the truth about the church because I don't want them to leave because I want the church to still be alive but to correct itself, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know what sort of personality Hubbard is, and he's the sort of guy where he will come back and he'll take control of it and fix it up. You know what I mean? Right.
I mean that I guess you have the reality that Hubbard was a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I've studied a lot of stuff to work that out. I mean, I understand why the Scientologist haters hate him. I understand it because it's a very complex thing. It's totally understandable why they can come to that conclusion that it's all bullshit and that it's crap.
Well, because if you look at some of the stuff, he was quite a con artist.
Well, there's a lot of lies spread about him. I mean, that's the problem. It's really complex. But hold on, I'm trying to say something. So when it comes to church members, for example, I know that I could sit them down and I could say, dude, you've spent this much money at the church. This is what's going on. This is how the tech's been changed. All this sort of stuff. And it would ruin his life, and he would just fall down and cry and go, I can't believe I wasted all my time and money on this. I was totally conned by the SPs that took over the church. All this sort of stuff. It would ruin his existence, right? So it's just like, why should I tell him
Honestly,
that?
I think someone need to hit rock bottom because I think it's better that you you live in reality. Because I think, like, if you look at the tone scale, right, I feel like they're living in a thing like, there's apathy, and then below. I was having a chat with one of my friends about this. Like, below this is squirrel in the tech again, below apathy is delusion. I think that's one of the lowest they can be, and I feel like they're all living in the same delusion. And sometimes they just need a crack. And we're like, okay, how do we treat someone with delusion? Sometimes they just need to fall flat on their face.
They do, but also I believe, well, firstly, I can't be bothered going out of my way to actually communicate with these people. I mean, if they're not willing to find out and find these videos and that sort of stuff, as in it's up to them. Like, let's say I leave it up to God, or I leave it up to them sorting out themselves. I came out of the church without any help from really other people and sort of stuff. So it's just like, if it's right for them to leave and that sort of stuff, then they'll leave.
But to me, what I think the thing that you can do is show genuine love to them, because I tell you what, it was the memory of love that I received in Christianity from one of the pastors that was years ago. It was just this faint memory in my head from like 6 years ago.
Sorry, I just thought of something funny.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. It's just one of the pastors that I saw. It was just this memory. It was just love. And it was just funny because at that time, I had no idea that was going to be a significant moment in my life. I had no idea. I just was like a school kid, just remember something. That stuck in my head. And then it was that memory that affected me in Scientology, that many years ago. And that was a driving point. Because when you're going through those two, because I wanted to do it properly, I don't want to walk out. I wanted to actually say, "Hey, look, guys, I'm done with the game."
Yeah, because you want to have the experience.
I want to route off. I want to route off properly.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult cycle. Like, they made it very difficult for me.
Of course.
They put me through some heavy cycles.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the only thing that kept me going through that, because I was on the point of almost breaking down quite a few times and just going back in, was that memory of love.
Wow. Yeah, I was similar as well. Unless you're strong, you almost can't get out. Because it's just like, you end up just going, oh, you know what, stuff it, I'll stay. And especially if you've got work with Scientologists, you've got family, you're married to a Scientologist or something, you're so in it, it's just like, you're just not going to leave.
Yeah, I tell you what, I get it. And I think telling the Scientologists about, look, you've spent this much money and all that stuff, that's not going to change it. I think what changed it, because they've been so deeply brainwashed, in my opinion, that they've been so deeply influenced and had a lot of, cognitive dissonances happen to them and stuff like that. But I think the only way you can actually help a Scientologist, is to show them love, because I think love is the only thing that actually transcends it, that goes beneath all that.
It can wake them up out of their... Because what they'll do is they'll have it, as soon as someone like me starts talking, because they view as me as like a squirrel. Yeah, they'll just like block it. So they'll be like, oh, this is like Andy who's a squirrel and who's probably a 1-1 or some shit. So they'll be thinking, oh, here's a 1-1 squirrel. So I start talking, right?
1.1, like on 1.1 on the tone scale, which
it's like means you're a negative person, like low negative.
You're a very negative person. like, because it goes from 40,
and destructive
which is
and stuff.
which is like awesome as awesome.
I mean, needless to say, the truth is the reason I left is because I'm upholding KSW. I'm more of a Scientologist than those church members will ever be.
KSW,
I'm more passionate than they'll ever be. Right?
KSW means keeping Scientology working. It's an article written by L. Ron Hubbard that details how to keep the Scientology actually effective.
Yeah, be passionate, like actually properly do Scientology right. They think, the church members think that they're doing KSW better than anyone else, but they're not. They're not. They're not doing KSW right and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so so when I talk, they'll have this thing go 1-1 squirrel. Don't listen to what he's saying. Maybe, and they might hear some sentences and they'll go, that makes sense, but here's a 1-1 squirrel and don't listen anymore because it'll pervert you.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're saying love can override that.
Then
they can actually go, hold on, I'm actually going to listen to what he's saying.
Because love overrides that, because it's just like it challenges it challenges their reality, and I think that's it's inbuilt in all of us, the ability to receive and identify love and also give out love. It's inbuilt in all of us into our structures of human beings, to where it's kind of like, you know, when like if you have a virus in the operating system, you can't get to the operating system. Yeah, so you have to go to the BIOS, which is a thing that it's in the motherboard rather than in the hard drive, and it talks about the framework. And this is a computing term, you know. So I think like love's in our BIOS, you know, of our thing, to where that can kind of like, that's like a hardwire, you know. It's a bypass past all the brainwashing, past all the mind control, past all that shit. Love can access that. Whereas anger and, you know, trying to hit them with facts.
Anger does the opposite. It builds up
that.
Yeah.
And then if you're trying to say, oh, you wasted all this money, or you're a cult member, all that, that's going to get you nowhere.
And also, you know, it's really interesting, Rod, because I've done some interviews on the internet with other people asking me about being a Scientologist, right?
Yeah.
And when they say some negative stuff about Scientology and I don't give any anger reaction, they're actually surprised. They're like, oh... I'm not used to that. Like, I'm used to like someone getting angry and attacking me or something. Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't care that you've heard some rumor and you're just repeating some rumor or something, or I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't care.
Yeah. By the way, that's one of the things is we said the term swirling before. We've been saying it quite a lot. Swirling means that you're changing something.
You're not doing Scientology correctly.
You're not doing so so they have a very, very particular process.
And this is the big conspiracy of it all. The whole RTC thing is that.
You're changing. It's going to mean you're changing something up.
But they're squirreling, but they're telling the church members that they're not squirreling. This is the whole big confusion of it all, in that the church members don't realize that they're actually squirreling while being told that they're not squirreling. So it's wild. This is the whole mental.
Yeah. It just means manipulating the process. So say, like, you know, if you have like a instruction manual of how to do something,
you don't do it correctly.
You change around the instruction manual.
Yeah, you
that's
delete
pretty much what it
means.
Delete words out, and so then the product of what you're doing isn't proper because you've messed up the instructions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I just want to make sure people knew what that means. Because I think we're saying a lot of things that people that don't know about Scientology are going to have a lot of misunderstood words.
I know. Yeah.
It's called MUs. It means misunderstood words.
It'll confuse people.
Things that confuse people.
So, how many people are in the course room then at the Melbourne Hall?
Oh, probably 1 or 2 or 3 people at a time.
Are you talking about the Div 6 course room?
Div 6 course room, yeah.
What would the Div 2 course room be like? Is it called Div 2 or Div 4 course room?
I think it's Div 4. It's Div 4.
Yeah, Div 4.
Just Div obviously means division. You know, there's different divisions in Scientology. Div 6 means like public.
People who are new to Scientology.
People who are new to Scientology.
And then Div 4 is for people who
that have been there for a while. Some more
Scientologists.
advanced courses. The Div 4 course room usually has a bit more people. Like, you know, at any given time, there might be like maybe 6 people there or something like that. And that's quite big.
And they've got a lot of staff that do studying as well, don't they?
There's like 2. Usually, if there's like 6 or 8 people in a Div 6, in a Div 4,
including the staff.
That would be including it. Wait, you mean the soups? Do you mean the supervisors?
No, I mean as in staff that are training, like a learning
staff.
course.
Yeah, with staff training. Yeah, No, that's including staff training.
So like 8 or something.
Best 8, probably.
St. Hill size.
Yeah. You know, 8 would be a good day. You know.
Yeah.
And then
so even
in Div 6, the new one, you know, you'd be lucky if you had 2 people there. You know, sometimes you have 3, and you're like, holy moly, this is a big class. You know, but it's usually 1 or 2.
So this whole thing of them making a lot of clears this year, which is great, good on them. But here's the thing that what they do is, of course, when they report the stats, they cherry pick them, so they don't report on like no one being in the HQS course room.
Oh yeah,
and then they choose the stat that says we made 36 clears this year, and post her up and like, fantastic, we're going St. Hill 36 stats this year. 36 clears this year, but it's just like, yeah, but like the other one was like, other stat was really terrible. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just because it's all contribute to their delusion. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah,
mind delusion. And the thing is, that's why I find it so sad, because they're all so desperately trying.
It's like 1984, man.
It's like 1984. They don't want to see reality.
They released a report saying in 1984 that they've only made this many boots per year, and it's actually less than usual. But they report it saying we've made more boots per year,
before.
And everyone goes great because they're like, yes, we're doing better than ever, and they all have this dream of making this communist utopia. And I don't know, I understand it now.
You get it, like it's like a 1980, and that's what makes me like, I look at it. It feels a bit like 1984 because people are so wanting to be right.
They're so wanting Scientology to save the world. They're so wanting everything to be good. It's the best thing ever.
For it to be
and
right.
everyone does it in every way. Like, as in someone walks along the church and they only mention the wins they've got in session. And then someone mentions their stats and they only mention the stats that were the highest ever. And when everyone does that, it creates this crazy thing of just like, wow, it's the best thing ever.
Wow, it's so good. And it all contributes to... And that's why I was saying that kind of three-pronged thing where the public keep the staff indoctrinated, and the staff keep the public indoctrinated, and then the admin indoctrinate themselves and also keep, the admin... And
then, of course, they never mention anything that's like out ethics or low tone because then they're worried about getting into trouble and they're worried about being called an SP or whatever. So, you know what I mean?
It's one wild circus ride of negative spiral, and that's the thing with me. Like, I'm doing this interview now about it, but I feel like a lot of people, even when they leave Scientology, they never quite let it go. Like, they're still stuck in the spiral. So I think like, it's just, for me, like, really, I'm wanting kind of my cycle to be over with it, because it just feels like it's such a dwindling, crazy kind of thing to where I feel like, you can just be caught up, and it's like this rabbit hole. It's a massive rabbit hole, Scientology, where there's just, where there's just this, and I feel like you can never actually really live life. I feel like it just consumes your life and then you forget who you are.
Well, was there the idea that Hubbard talks about where it says you do TRs or something, or it's Scientology or TRs. TRs isn't a goal in itself. So you're doing it for a reason. But when you get involved with the church, it like gobbles you up and you're doing Scientology for the sake of Scientology, and you never actually go out in the world and actually use any of these abilities. You're just in there all the time, and you finish a course and you quickly do another course. And it's just like, it's just funny because it's just like, hey, hold on, why are we doing the courses in the first place?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because I'm actually trying to recommend Scientology to one of my friends right now, because he was telling me he was really depressed and looking for a purpose in life. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to figure out this would be the perfect candidate for Scientology, because they prey on these people that are desperate. They prey on these... that's what they prey upon.
Yeah, because also, if you've got someone who's in good shape, they walk in on day one and they spot things that are weird, and then they go, F this, I'm leaving. But if someone really is desperate for help, then they go, oh, no, I'll stay and put up with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was desperate in a way, but I also have, I'm also a pretty strong person. Like, I'm pretty smart for my age.
But also, you went into it from a whole other point of view, in that you were educated on it before you went into it.
Before I went into it, which made it crazier.
Yeah.
But the thing I found it crazy is that you can even know all the things to do with Scientology. Like, I went in there and I knew exactly what they were going to do, and I was talking to a friend every single day who was been in Scientology, and I would tell him exactly what's been happening, and he would give me, okay, that's they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this. The reason why they're doing that to you.
He would tell you the lies, basically.
He would be pretty much, okay, like, and it was funny. He'd be like, okay, this person's probably going to try to recruit you tomorrow. Yeah, it happened. And they're gonna say this into you.
Yeah.
And it happened. But the funny thing is, like, I can know this, and the funny thing, their
you still got sucked into it.
Their brainwashing is so freaking powerful to where I was drinking the Kool-Aid, even though I knew it was the Kool-Aid.
You're saying, even though you had this help from a friend, and you knew all this stuff before you got involved with it, and while you were involved with it, you still almost got sucked fully into it. I still almost
got fully sucked into it.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it?
And that's
so powerful.
It's so powerful. And I tell you what, it wasn't my friend who gave me the knowledge, or it wasn't all the black PR on the internet, even though I was looking at black PR every single day on the internet while I was there. That was nowhere near enough to get me out. It was the power of that memory of love from 6 years ago when I was in Christian school. that got me out.
No, but part of it is the truth is that if you'd never come across any of this bad information, you would have gone into it. You would have drawn all the connections, and you would have just said, "I don't like the love thing," and you probably would have become a church member.
No, you're right. You're right. I'll give credit to that. But to me, that was the tipping point. Like, if it wasn't for that love thing, all that stuff wouldn't have mattered to me.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess they both kind of depend on each other. But it's just kind of funny. So I guess I might try and tell my friend who's interested in it, like, Scientology will completely change your life. It will rock your world. Like, it will rock your freaking world and blow you away.
You got to go on it for the ride.
You know, it is one hell of a ride.
The main rule, all you have to do is to say to someone, if they want to get involved with the church, right, is that you just have to stand up for yourself. That's basically it. It's just like, no matter what, don't let them milk your money or don't let them make you volunteer your time forever. If you just apply them, you'll be fine.
The problem is they're so convincing. I mean, I look at myself, and I walk in there, and I'm a pretty strong-minded person compared to most people, especially if I hate to kind of toot my own horn, but I'm 17 years old, and I'm pretty smart, for my age, I mean, most 17-year-olds wouldn't be able to have done what I did,
Yeah.
I mean, I see him like, wow, if I almost got sucked into it, like I got sucked into it for a while, and I got myself out. I mean, I just can see someone who was not quite as strong-minded as me.
I know, yeah.
I'm like, wow.
But if you apply that rule...
If it almost did that to me... But the thing is, I did apply those rules. I'm like, I walked in and think, I'm not going to volunteer for staff, and there's no way to take them.
Yeah, so you ended up leaving, because you said you stopped them from regging you on the Purif because you knew it wasn't right for you money-wise.
For money-wise at that time, you know? I mean, the thing was, is like...
You were strong, though. You know what I mean? Is that you just have to... Whoever's going to get into it, you just have to say, be strong, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, and you just don't let them... to take you for reg interviews forever.
The problem is that they're so convincing. Like, the thing is, like, even though I did this, like, I was so close to cracking. Yeah. I was so close to cracking.
So you think some people shouldn't even go to the church at all?
Like, I don't know. Like, I this is what I struggle with, because the thing is like, I see, like, if someone's, like, suicidal, it will change their life. Like, I guarantee, like, I don't think you can be suicidal and be a Scientologist. I don't think those two things can exist. Like, you cannot be depressed and be a Scientologist. Like, in a way, like, we were talking, like, I don't think you, because you're so caught up in this delusion that you're amazing and you're saving the planet, you can't really be, like, suicidal or depressed in that aspect. I think you can be really empty, but you're never going to be to the point where you want to kill yourself or something like that,
Yeah.
So I think it's a real Band-Aid fix for me, being in the church.
Yeah.
Like, I want to tell my friend, do it. If you're going to get to the point where you think you don't want to live anymore, then do it. You're better off living and being a Scientologist than not living.
Do you know what's also good about getting involved with the church, and it probably is a bit like this in the SEAL, because SEAL was really hardcore, right? Is that I feel like, I didn't go into the SEAL, but I feel like you get into experiences in your life where you're like, man, I'm happy I was a Scientologist because it was like my experience in the military, or it was like my training that made me tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But other people are like, they're like, well, this is too much, I can't handle it. It's just like, man, you should be a SIO for a few years, man. You know what I mean? It makes you hardcore.
It's like boot camp.
Yeah, it's like boot camp.
So many things.
Yeah, for spirituality.
Manipulation, like, I tell you what, it's like someone tries to pull the hood under my eyes, and I'm like, mate, you got nothing. I've been in Scientology. Yeah, exactly.
You have time with a salesman, and you're like, nah, you salesman, I can handle you easily. You guys aren't willing to do outrageous shit.
I've been regged by Scientology.
Yeah, exactly, mate. They are the host hardcore, and I didn't even do much in the Sea Org, and I didn't even go to Flag where it's real hardcore. So it's just like, man, I kind of regret that.
The reason why is also, the thing is, I hesitate because we're kind of strong people. Weaker people might not be able to do that. And then
I know, yeah, so maybe they should get involved. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I get concerned about. It's like,
because things are different.
If you can get, the thing is, I say, if you can go in Scientology and then leave, I'd recommend it. I think it's life-changing. Like, for me, Scientology has helped me so freaking much. But I could see the danger. I felt like I was walking on a razor edge. Yeah. I could have fallen into insanity at any point. I was walking on the edge of insanity.
Shit, yeah.
Like, that's literally, I felt like I was walking on the edge of insanity.
I know, and I was like that. When I decided to go, when I said, I'm not going to do what the church says, I'm going to look up negative stuff on the internet, that was me on the edge, and I just said, nah, I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah,
looking
but
up on the internet.
you get what I mean. Like,
But it was so close.
you're
I could have
so
gone the other
close to
way.
cracking.
I could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I would have had another moment a few months later where I was like, I'm going to look on the internet. And then maybe a few years later, I'm going to look on the internet. It would have eventually happened because I'm just too rebellious. You know what I mean?
For me, that's how I am. I always rock the boat. Like, I'm someone who hates submission. Like, that's something like me. I mean, my parents can attest to that as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't a guy. I always like to be a bit of a shit
Anyway, we've gone like pretty long in this interview, but how many auditors, for example, are auditing then in HGC?
I don't know. Probably like maybe 5 or 6 at a time. I don't know. To be honest, I wasn't really in the HGC very much.
What about on the SRD course room?
I never went to the SRD course room, so I really don't know.
What about how many staff are on Foundation in general?
Around 50.
Around 50.
Around 50
And what
staff.
about day?
Day, I think it's like 70 or 80.
Okay,
maybe 100.
makes sense.
There's a bit more on
That's
day.
a bit similar, yeah. It's a bit similar to what it was when I was there 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's more definitely on day than there is on Foundation.
Yeah, it was almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Maybe actually when I left, it was actually probably more like 35 or 40 on Foundation and 60 on day. So
it's grown a little bit.
They've definitely improved a bit because GAT2 has been an improvement, so it takes a bit of time for it to filter out GAT2 and actually start getting people into Scientology.
But it's kind of like funny because, like, like, 10 people over a couple of years. So, oh my goodness, what an improvement. You look at, like, Hillsong, it's like, oh, we've launched this new foundation, we have a couple thousand new people. You know, it's like, okay, fine, yeah, there's a little bit of growth there, but it's so freaking slow.
I know, and it's just like... It's just like they'll say something like, we want to go St. Hillside next year, and they'll do some things to achieve that, but they'll leave out the most biggest important thing ever, which is like
love.
Div 6, and Div 6 promotion.
Div 6 promotion and love.
Just getting in new faces.
Well, they're too busy like sending out mail. Like they're so obsessed.
Exactly, like you see, exactly. They'll send out mail into letterboxes that is just a waste of money and it's not effective, as opposed to using that money and the staff members who filled up those little letterbox things to like go and give flyers out and get people in. Like their priorities aren't straight. They need to promote.
They need to promote.
Most important thing.
I mean, they're like, the funny thing is like they're so good at promotion but so bad at promotion.
Exactly. Exactly. Like
they're so good at selling, but they're so bad at advertising.
Like they come up with these nice flyers and like these nice letterheads and that sort of stuff and these nice emails with all like professional everything. But here's the thing: they send them to people who don't freaking want them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, because what was insane for me when I went to the letter writing place, because we do our letters.
Yeah.
Is I'm looking at these files, and these guys
never writing back.
Did like a free Dianetics seminar in 1984, 1970.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they've had a letter every single week since 1984.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the energy that you're expelling should be going to people like that you haven't messaged yet.
I know,
and potentially giving them, someone who hasn't been saying
the
no for
person's
20
probably
years.
not even living in that address anymore.
Probably not. But they're expelling so much energy, and then $1 every single time they send a letter out. It's such an ineffective.
Exactly. Especially, I mean, in Australia, recently they put up the postage prices and stuff. I mean, for ages it used to be 50 cents for a letter, which was a good deal for a long time. It was really, really great. And you can afford to sort of do ridiculous things like the way the church does. Now it's like $1 a letter. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference.
For a personal letter, I mean, I've never sent letters out, so I think $1 is fine. To me,
no one sends out letters,
to me that's fine, because if I'm going to send out a letter, it must be a pretty big deal.
Like, letters were a thing in 1963 before the internet, you know what I mean? So
but for me, like, if I'm sending a letter, it's a massive deal. I'm like, there has to be some sort of really special reason. I mean,
exactly.
Sending letters so $1 is nothing to me, but the scale that they send out letters is insane. like
they'll send, for example, my mum did like one service with them, right? She's not a sire or anything, and they'll send her regularly things to join staff.
Yeah, you're sending in the car.
It's like, hold on a second. She's not even willing to do a service in Scientology.
Why on earth
and then so there's 3 levels to it. She's not even willing to do a service, right? But that's the one thing you'd obviously should be writing letters about. The next level would be to actually make her into a Scientologist, and then once she's a Scientologist, try and get her on staff. But of course, they're sending to someone who's not even willing to do a service a letter to join staff, and it's just ridiculous. It's just a waste of money.
It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, and it just shows that they're so stuck in their bullish way of we're going to do it this way, to where they're not even based in reality. And this is what's really problem
the whole
with me.
Postulate thing.
They're not based in reality.
Yeah, they're not. Exactly, yes.
We're the fastest growing religion in the world. They're not. And the thing is, they're so unwilling to look at it because I really feel like if they actually sat down for a second and were honest with themselves about the situation that they were in, they could do so much more because they try to do these battle plans, right? They have these battle plans. If you're not going well, battle plan means like a plan to improve, like how we're going to fix it, how we're going to achieve our goals. Great stuff, you know. But the thing is, if you're not actually honest with yourself at the position that you're in, hey, we're not up here, we're actually down here, then you can make a battle plan that actually fits the situation. But if you're making battle plans for when you're up here,
yes, exactly.
You're not. It's like
yes, I know. It's crazy. It's
crazy.
Totally out of
the
reality.
battle plan isn't going to work because you're thinking you're up here.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than actually going from down here.
You have to be, exactly. It's this whole idea of being like a postulate and then just ignoring the facts around you, but it's just like, hold on, you need to weigh them in. And it's just like, with the outflow thing, it's like, that outflow principle does exist. I've seen it in my own business, like, you just put out some outflow,
I mean, the more you put out, the more you get in.
Yeah, so you put out some outflow, and then suddenly something else comes in that wasn't even related to the outflow you put out, but it was just because you put out the outflow. It's some weird philosophical, spiritual rule. But it does exist, and Hubbard was right when he says that. But that doesn't mean you should go and send out expensive letters to people who are just going to throw them out.
And they've been saying no for the last 20 years.
And then saying, oh, you don't understand how outflow works. Outflow works. You just put outflow out and inflow will come in. And it's just like
ridiculous.
It's just like you will get much more inflow coming in if you actually send it to like people who are actually interested.
It's like me applying for a job. You could say, oh, I'm going to apply for CEO positions. And thousands of CEO positions.
Yeah, and going, you don't understand the outflow law. I'm going to get a job from this, and it's just like
no, apply for a position. It's
just like
yeah, the more positions if I was to apply for, maybe like, hey, a cashier position or a bank teller, something I've done before, maybe even a personal banker, something that's more my level.
Yeah.
Then yeah, outflow as much as you want. The more outflow you're going to do. But if you're just saying, no, man, CEO positions, I'm going to be also apply to be a head mechanic.
Yeah, and they do, and with the letters, they'll write these shitty, quickie letters, and they'll go, "Don't worry, it's just outflow." And it's just like, I don't know, they take it too far. They take it too far.
It's taking a principle
and just bastardizing
it, and then bastardizing or perverting it. You know.
Anyway, we got to go on because it's gone too long. But what are your plans for the future? Like, are you interested in something like independent Scientology? I am.
Like, to me, I'm not seeing it as a spiritual thing. I see it as a self-improvement. So for me, I find my spiritual satisfaction comes from Christianity at the moment. If that changes, it changes. But right now, that's where I see myself. I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
And quickly, you mentioned something about Hillsong. So is that like concerts?
They're a very youthful church, so they rent out theaters and stuff like that. So it's just a different way of approaching a church. Like so it's not like they have seats and all that stuff, but it's just like they're very musical. They still have sermons, they still have all the same things, but they're very youthful.
So is it like a normal Sunday service but with heaps of music?
Beats and music, lights flashing. It's like
for young people.
It's like you're going to a concert. You're in a bit of a nightclub. There's dance. You're dancing. There's light shows, and then they'll have live theater. Sometimes they have these things called Sunday Night Live where they want to do a sermon, right? But instead of just having a guy sit there and read off the Bible, they have a really good live performance where they actually have it where there's people that are there's people that are doing like acting, and there's comedy. There's actually it's like you go into like a theatrical performance that sends a message.
Yeah.
So they do it in such a way that really actually make you like, hey, this is fun to be in.
How do they promote it?
Well, the thing is that they're just that popular. They don't even need to promote.
Sort of word of mouth.
It's word of mouth. Everyone's heard of Hillsong, and I look at it. It's not like there's ads. I mean, there is ads around it, but Justin Bieber's also in Hillsong now. There's people. They just have because they're so fun. Like it was funny. They just have that word of mouth because they don't even need to promote. Like they're over capacity at the moment. They're building more. But of course they have a few banners and stuff like that. And their band Hillsong United is the #1 Christian, band.
Well, hold on a second. Is Hillsong, is this some American thing that's come here? Or?
No, it's based in Sydney. It was started in Sydney.
But is it in America as well?
No, it's in America, but it was founded by in Sydney.
Okay.
So its head thing is in
what
Sydney.
Christian denomination is it?
Pentecostal. I'm not even sure what Pentecostal means. But
what Christian denomination are you then? Are you like an Anglican or like a Catholic or something? Or?
Well, I would identify closely as a Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay. And so are the Hillsongs all Seventh-day Adventists?
No, they're not Seventh-day Adventists. But the thing is, I don't really like to go by denomination. I would say I more closely align with some of the Seventh-day Adventist philosophies. So they're vegetarian and stuff like that, and that's what I like. And I went to an Adventist school.
Yeah.
Look, I don't really believe in denomination. I think that's where the mix-up comes in.
But this Hillsong, though, Hillsong's just an inclusive thing for everyone.
Hillsong's an inclusive thing. It's not like Catholic and Anglican. It's just more of a thing where, and this is what I really think is true Christianity. It's not about, oh, you're this, you're that, I'm Catholic, you're Anglican. It's not that. It's about really what religion and faith comes down to, where the power is hey, I love you, God.
Yeah.
It's connection with God. It's like, God doesn't be like, oh, you're a Catholic, you're an Anglican.
Well, it's kind of like with the in independent Scientology, we've got this thing called the Theta Alliance, which is like a convention, right? But it's not for just one type of independent Scientology. It's for all independent Scientologists. Do you know what I mean? It's for everyone. It's just it's people who aren't involved with the church all aligning, even though they've got different ideas of what standard tech is. You know what I mean? Like, they have different beliefs, but it's all coming together and being accepting of everyone. And not being like, you can't come if you're with Ronzorg, or you can't come if you're with APIS or something like that. Anyway, it's a good way of doing it. Like,
I think I think for me, when it comes to religion, I think the more man-made kind of barriers you have, like, we have like the bishops and all that stuff. I think religion in itself is man-made, and it kind of it's a bit of a vehicle to have that connection with God. But I think the more you have, the more bureaucracy you have, and the more kind of thing, that's actually just limiting factors on your relationship with God. Because really, I think all religion should just be a vehicle for your faith. Yeah, it shouldn't be, and it should be just, and that's its purpose. It shouldn't be anything more than a vehicle for your faith and your relationship with God. In your faith is your relationship. Hey, God, I love you. Hey, God loves me. It's a personal connection. It's not done through a bishop. It's not done through something. It's done through your personal connection. So, if Hillsong is helping me, like through its live performances and getting me excited and getting me interested in having more of a relationship with God, then that's what I closely under, because it's inspiring me to want to go to church more. It's inspiring me to read the Bible more. It's inspiring me to actually be more kind. So that's what I think. That's the purpose of religion, is to inspire each other to be more godly. Yeah. To be more.
Good. Well, on that note, Jai,
we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
All right. So I hope you liked that interview with Jai. It was actually the longest interview I've done, which is quite interesting. Because you compare it to some of the interviews I've done with Scott Gordon, and some of them were pretty long as well. But we covered a lot of data in that one. But whereas that one was more of a discussion. But I was surprised it went for that long. Okay, so before we end off the podcast, I've got an LH quote. The goal of Scientology is the rehabilitation of the game. The auditor can make a game better or make it possible for the pre-clear to play a game. The pre-clear is being audited because he is no longer able to take part in the game. Life is a game consisting of freedom and restrictions. Play is communication. And that's from Scientology 8008. Very true. I mean, that's what I notice when you come across people who are keyed in or losers and stuff, and who just aren't surviving in life, and they're not playing the game of life. And you can see how they've been harmed, and now they're scared, so they're a spectator, and they just want to enjoy the sensations of good food or good drugs or good television, and just it's all about things come to them from outside, and they just watch, and they're just a complete spectator, whether they're a spectator of the nice senses on the taste buds or a spectator of the senses of the eye and sound that come from when you're watching TV. And yeah, it's interesting. This makes them a whole spectator. And they're not that happy, because it's just not that fun to be on the sidelines watching. It's much funner to be there in the game, involved and playing. And that's what's great about Scientology, because it gets you playing the game of life. It gets you in there, excited, playing and winning. I'll read that quote out again, just to make sure it sinks in, because it's pretty deep, okay? The goal of Scientology is the rehabilitation of the game. The auditor can make a game better or make it possible for the pre-clear to play a game. The pre-clear is being audited because he is no longer able to take part in the game. Life is a game consisting of freedom and restrictions. Play is communication. Okay, so that's it for the podcast. I hope you liked it. It's time for you to climb back out of this funky rabbit hole, this world of Scientology. You're going to climb back out of it. I hope you like the adventure. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening. I've been Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy, and until next time, take care of yourself and get up that bridge.